1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 4th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, 8 degrees. In Smith Falls, it is 11. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Dozens of protesters have gathered at MPP offices and at Queen's Park this morning. They are fighting the government's passage of a bill which makes QP workers' strike illegal and forces a new contract on the 55,000 members. City News reporter Chris Curry has the story from MPP Lisa McLeod's office on Greenbank Road.
Those on the picket line got a beautiful day and the crowds have turned up in support. Over 100 people consistently walking up and down the streets, holding up their signs, waving flags and chanting in support of QP. Here's spokesperson Aaron Grant.
Today I'm out here and I'm advocating once again for my students, but I'm also advocating for myself and for other education workers in Ontario.
Multiple people have told me they plan to be here however long it takes, like educational assistant John Paul, who says if he's not, what does the future of a union, even theirs, look like?
So either I suffer now or I suffer later.
There are those here as well from other unions or just allies who say they know how essential these workers are to running a school. In Nepean, Chris Curry's City News.
And as you just heard, the illegal QP strike is getting the backing of other unions. The president of OPSU, JP Hornick, tells the Wake Up with Rob Snow show they stand with QP.
This group has already shown movement at the table, and the government still decided to ram through this legislation. From my perspective, we have an obligation to stand in solidarity with QP.
And OPSU has 8,000 education workers, and Hornick says they will stand with QP for as long as it takes. And some local schools are closed this morning as QP workers stage a walkout. Pino Buffone is the Director of Education for the Renfrew County District School Board. He tells Wake Up with Rob Snow show the plan for schools in that district.
We are doing 2 days of what's called asynchronous learning, today and Monday, in the event the dispute continues and no agreement's reached. And then we shift on Tuesday to synchronous learning, where teachers actually are in front of the students in a live classroom setting for their courses or their subject areas.
Buffone says the board is preparing for several scenarios, including one that sees QP workers withdraw their services. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Very warm temperatures for us today, tomorrow, and for Sunday, we could see some new record highs. Our guaranteed high today, 19 degrees, sun and cloud for the most part, a mild 14, up to 23 degrees tomorrow. Showers Saturday night, strong gusty southwest wind, back to sunshine Sunday. For today, the guaranteed high, 19.
City News time is 10:03. With CHIO operating at 1 point this week at 160%, the situation is desperate. The hospital's Senior Vice President of Clinical Services, Tammy Diovani, says they are reaching out for help to area adult hospitals.
Our adult hospitals with mental health beds are being asked to take youth that are 16 and over. We've been chatting with them about that as well. We do have within Ontario Health East, there are other hospitals that do have pediatric beds, and so we have been working with them to make sure that we're utilizing them where possible.
And the source of the overcapacity is traced to the influx of respiratory patients, among others. While flu season has started early, there are also COVID-19 cases and children suffering from RSV. I am Damilola Unime. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, good Friday morning to everybody. Thank you so much for spending time with us today on City News. It is a very busy news day today. We'll be keeping you up to date on anything we hear regarding the QP strike, of course, from the province. We know those education workers are striking today. It has been a very challenging week for so many. We're thinking about parents and students today and teachers that are not in the classroom today. We're thinking about all of those education workers as well. It's an absolute shame that we've got to where we are, but we're going to be following this very, very closely today. We certainly have lots of great topics for you today. You're going to want to stay with us for lunch as well, because today we're going to be having lunch with three of our favorites. And of course, that's Mary Wong. She's going to be joining us. Christina Spencer and Noor Qadri is going to be joining us for lunch. We're going to be chatting about all of the big topics today. It certainly, once again, has been a very busy news week. We're going to speak with Ari Goldkind as well, criminal defense lawyer. We're going to be speaking about the testimony we heard from Tamara Leach. We're going to be speaking about that, of course, the so-called Freedom Convoy. A number of those organizers have been testifying this week. It certainly has been an interesting week to watch what's going on at the inquiry. We know that that inquiry has to be completed by February of 2023. Time is ticking. It's going to be really interesting to see if they get through all of these 65 people that are to testify in time for that report to be ready. We'll also be watching very closely to see what happens next week with Premier Doug Ford and Sylvia Jones, who was the Solicitor General at the time of the convoy, to see if they're going to be appearing in front of the inquiry as well. We're going to be heading to Carleton Place. Robin Arsenault is going to spend time with us today, Executive Director of the Carleton Place and District Memorial Hospital Foundation. There is some big news coming out of the hospital. Robin's going to share all of those details. Tom D'Amico is going to join us as well. You can imagine the topic. It's all about the strike that's happening today. Tom is the Director of Education for the Ottawa Catholic School Board, a school board that is not in class today. So we're going to be speaking with Tom a little bit later. We're also going to be speaking with Nancy Edwards today, Professor Emeritus, School of Nursing at the University of Ottawa and Chair of the Fall Prevention Committee for CARP. It is Fall Prevention Month. We're going to be speaking with Nancy Edwards about that. But when I want to speak mortgages, I know exactly where I go, and that is to Clinton Wilkins. Hi, Clinton.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Good. Clinton is with Centrum Home Lenders Ltd. We know that obviously this has been very, very challenging time for anybody thinking about buying or selling, getting that new mortgage. Clinton, what are you hearing?
I think it's certainly a challenging time, Sam. You know, I think we're going to some tough economic challenges, and I think the news that came out of the federal government yesterday really has spoken to that as well. So I think that's something that Canadians really need to take into account. November is Financial Literacy Month, so I think it's a great time to really think about your finances. And obviously the home is one of the biggest assets that a household has, and the mortgage is the biggest debt. So I think it's really important to look and see kind of where things are sitting. I think November is a great time to kind of do a little bit of a check-in before you start going into the holidays and into the new year.
Such a smart thing to do. Clinton, of course, is part of Mortgage 101 here on City News. And, you know, it's a great time for people to tune in to really hear the reality of what today's mortgage looks like. Clinton, give us a sense of what you're seeing in the past couple of weeks with your clients.
You know, I think we're certainly talking a lot about renewals. There's been a lot in the media. Obviously, we know the Bank of Canada met earlier this month and they did a 50 basis point increase in the key overnight rate. So that's impacting Canadians that have a variable rate mortgage or a home equity line of credit or any, you know, debt products that are connected to the prime rate. So that's an immediate kind of increase, an immediate impact that those consumers are going to have. But we're really kind of shifting the conversation, and we're having a lot of conversations with clients that are midterm. And, you know, we're having those conversations earlier than we normally would have, Sam. You know, we're really concerned about the clients that are coming up for renewal next year that are even in a fixed rate, because those consumers, in theory, you know, a lot of them had mortgage rates that were sub 3%, and in some cases they're renewing into a product that might be double their previous rate. So certainly some very immediate impact and from those consumers that I think maybe were a little bit shielded from the inflation previously. They're really getting some wake-up calls, and I think that can be challenging.
For sure. Let's talk a little bit about amortization, because this is always, I get those mortgage calculators out and look at what that is. And but it's one thing to sort of do that on your own on maybe an app, but it's another thing to work with someone like yourself, Clinton, in terms of amortization. Walk us through what advice that you are giving to people right now in different scenarios that are coming to you.
With a conventional mortgage, so that means that if you're doing a purchase or if you're doing a refinance and it's 80% of the property value or less, you can go to an amortization of 30 years with most traditional lenders, which I think can be great, especially in these times, Sam. Canadians in general really do want to pay down their mortgages, but I think right now a lot of people are really kind of pushing that pause button on really aggressively paying down their debt. One of the reasons, obviously, is the rates. The other concern is what's going on with inflation and really the cost of day-to-day operations of that home. We're talking about, fuel and groceries and everything else that, may not be considered, housing expense per se. But consumers are definitely taking, I think, longer amortizations right now. And I think a lot of clients that are coming up for renewal are simply choosing not to just directly renew with their lender. They're looking to do, a refinance that was really just looking to extend the amortization and bring down that borrowing cost.
If we have extra money, Clinton, what are you advising your clients if somebody says, you know what, I think I could put another $100 or $200 or $300 on my mortgage a month? Are you advising to do that?
I think the first thing that you really need to look at is your unsecured debt. I think right now, Sam, unsecured debt is a killer. So I think you really need to look and see what's going on outside of the mortgage first. I think that's the very first thing that you really need to look at. The other thing is, right now, cash is king. We don't know what the next 12 months are going to look like. So I think stockpiling a little bit of a nest egg may be more advantageous than doing a lump sum payment down on the mortgage. That's at least my feedback. And once inflation starts to soften, I think at that point, sure, let's start reducing the amortization. Let's do a payment increase. Let's look at a lump sum payment. Many mortgage lenders are very flexible to allow Canadians to pay down their mortgages faster. I just think right now, having a bit of a war chest is going to really pay off.
Let's speak a little bit about stress test. We hear these term. You and I have talked about it before. For those that maybe are just kind of understanding, what these terms are, walk us through what you mean by stress test.
So stress test is a rule and a qualification that the federal government put in place to ensure consumers can handle the situation that we're in right now, Sam. So they want to know that when a client qualifies for a mortgage that they can handle, increases in the rates in the future and that, they're not going to be underwater. So previously, before, let's say, the last few months, if you were in a variable rate mortgage or if you had a low fixed rate, we were qualifying borrowers at a rate of 5.25. Because of the last increases, from the last 6 months up until, the last couple of weeks, mortgages now, we're qualifying everyone at a rate of 2% above their contract. It doesn't matter if you're in a fixed rate or if you're in a variable. So for example, Sam, right now, fixed rates are in the mid 5% range. So we're qualifying clients at sometimes 7.5%, 8%. So we know that clients can handle more increases, but it certainly is a challenge when you're looking to get approved. Clients can qualify for less today than they really could have 6 months ago.
So interesting, Clinton. It really has been, a time for me to learn a lot about mortgages as well. Even I think just when you think you know something, and then something happens by the government, or that interest rate changes, and it kind of changes the situation. You've been very kind to spend time with us here on City News, and we get to listen to you on City News with Mortgage 101 and Todd Vino. It's a great opportunity for people to kind of tune in and get all that mortgage information right up front.
I think it's great. It'll be on this Saturday and Sunday. We're kicking off Financial Literacy Month, and we're really talking about financial literacy all month long. So really the cornerstones that we're going to be talking about this weekend, Sam, are all about income, assets and credit. And I really think it's going to be a great show. I think there's a lot of taboos talking about financial literacy, and I think hopefully we can get those conversations started, and you can continue those conversations at the dinner table.
Well, that's fantastic. People can listen to An Hour to Give and then flow right into Mortgage 101. I love it.
I think it'll be a great weekend, hopefully.
It'll be fantastic. Clinton Wilkins spending time with us today from Centum Home Lenders Limited. We appreciate Clinton's time always, and you can tune in to, once again, Mortgage 101 right here on City News. We have lots of stories for you today, lots of information as well coming down about what's happening right now in terms of the CUPE strike. We're going to be on this topic all day long. You want to lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Yo. Yep. Okay, I'll be there.
I don't care what the law is. I will never be a slave. That word, I hate it. It rests on my tongue like rot.
Peter, how does it feel to get paid for your work?
There are rumors freedom's coming for us all.
Freedom, you know that's all I want.
Chloe, careful. Vrooman would rather sell you across the river to America than let you go free.
Then I'll run.
I've run before. Maybe this time for good.
No! Just get her into a boat. No!
Chloe! Chloe, no!
Word of Chloe Cooley's resistance led to Canada's first legislation limiting slavery. After 200 years, slavery was abolished in Canada in 1834.
From coast to coast, all across Canada, there's something very special going on. It's time to show your support. Time to spread the word. Time to demonstrate your commitment to safe and sober driving. Join thousands of Canadians and tie a ribbon on something or someone you love. And take the time to have a real conversation about impaired driving. Mad Project Red Ribbon. Tie it, wear it, show it, share it, live it. Find out more at mad.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
The way I kill my skill sharpen, cause I've been here sharpening.
What's going on, y'all? It's Jay Morris, aka your favorite light skin, and you're gonna check out my performance on Encore Ottawa 3 coming up this week. Let's go.
All again, murderation, 911, call it in. Me, I murder every.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us here on City News. We wanted to get caught up today with Nancy Edwards, Professor Emeritus, School of Nursing, University of Ottawa, and Chair of the Fall Prevention Committee for CARP. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Tell us a little bit about CARP first, that may not, for those that may not be aware, Nancy.
Yes, well, CARP is a national organization, and there are chapters across the country. So the CARP Ottawa chapter is the one that I'm involved with. CARP is they now just use the term CARP, but it used to stand for the Canadian Association of Retired Persons. But in fact, people aged 45 and above are welcome to be involved and even younger.
Appreciate it very much. We know this month is Fall Prevention Month. Walk us through, Nancy, why this is such an important topic for people to pay attention to.
Yes, well, it really is an issue, and not just among older adults, but among all age groups. Parachute, which is a leading injury prevention organization in Canada, has looked at the cost of falls. And just to give you an idea, among seniors 65 and above, the cost to the healthcare system and to families and communities is $5.6 billion every year. And it's actually the number one cost driver for kids under the age of 14 and adults 25 to 64.
That's staggering.
And about 1 in 3 seniors falls every year. So that's a large percentage of the population. Now, not everybody suffers from an injury when they fall. But if you fall on stairs or if you fall in the bathroom, your likelihood of an injury is particularly high, upwards of 65 to 75%, regardless of age.
And
so those are two areas that are real environmental issues.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And when people are falling, then it's my understanding too. It leads to other challenges for them.
Well, that's right. Even without any kind of injury, if you fall, then often you become fearful of falling. And if you fear having a fall, then you often end up restricting your mobility, and maybe you stop walking around your neighborhood and so on. And so you're actually further increasing your risk of falling. And of course, if you have a fall with injuries, then there's maybe a long period of rehabilitation. If it's a serious fall, you may not be able to manage at home. A large proportion of admissions to long-term care settings are as a result of a fall. I think that's something that people are often unaware of. Mm-hmm. And we know that, most Canadians of all ages, they want to be able to live in their home. We know that about 90% of the seniors, when asked, will say, well, I want to be able to stay at home. I want my independence, and that's where the memories are and where I want to be. Absolutely. But if we are not adapting our homes for aging in place, then we may be living in conditions where we've got a higher and higher likelihood of falls, perhaps as our health changes, our balance isn't as good as we get older, our vision is not as good as we get older, and all these things start to combine to increase our risk of falling, even in our own home, an environment that we know very well.
Right. Such an important piece for sure. Nancy, where can we go to get more information?
Well, Parachute has a lot of resources online, so that's a good spot. I would say that there's lots of exercise programs available, and for fall prevention, balance and strength training are extremely important. Mm-hmm. Tai Chi is a good exercise. And if you're thinking about how to make improvements to bathrooms, particularly installing grab bars or on stairs, looking at handrails that are graspable, maybe fixing steps that aren't uniform, putting a toggle switch at the top and bottom of your stairs so you've got adequate lighting. There's information about that sort of thing with Parachute's resources too. And I would just also like to say that there are some home modification programs available that will help with some of the funding. So the seniors Home Safety Tax Credit in Ontario is a very good one. Mm-hmm. But the current program only runs until December of this year. And then the tax credit is something you apply for when you file your income tax. So people might want to think about writing their MPP to encourage the continuation of a program like that.
Very smart, Nancy. Thank you so much for your time today. Nancy is the chair of the Fall Prevention Committee for CARP. We appreciate all those great tips today. We wanted to check in with Jen Clark, who's working very, very hard for a big event happening on November the 24th. And Jen is with St. Joe's Women's Center. Hi, Jen. Hi, Jen. How are you?
Well, how are you doing?
Good. Jen, I know how busy you are getting ready for the big event on November the 24th. Tell us all about it.
Yes, absolutely. So the event coming up is in support of St. Joe's Women's Center. We're a day program and registered charity dedicated to the needs of low-income and homeless women and their children. We provide a supportive and safe environment, social and educational programs to promote empowerment, autonomy, and dignity in a non-judgmental atmosphere. Throughout the pandemic, it's been, so challenging for not-for-profit organizations working with these populations, particularly from a fundraising aspect. And we're so thankful that this year we're able to get back to the new quote-unquote normal of fundraising with a little bit of a twist and hosting our quality of life event this year.
And it's such a special night. You're going to be honoring one of my favorite people who we lost, and that is Dennis Jackson.
That's right. As so many know, Ottawa lost one of its philanthropy leaders this year, Dennis Jackson. Dennis was a tireless supporter of the St. Joe's Women's Center and many causes and charities in Ottawa. He was a 2009 recipient of the Quality of Life Award for St. Joe's Women's Center, and he left such an impression on us and our organization, and he dedicated so much time to the Women's Center and supporting our cause. With that, and the blessing, of course, of his beautiful wife, Dorothy, this year's Quality of Life event will celebrate the work and community spirit of Dennis Jackson.
It's going to be a very, very special night, and I'm really honored to be hosting this evening and having an opportunity to connect with of course, all of Dennis's family and friends and the community. I think this is an opportunity as well for so many people to come out and celebrate St. Joe's Women's Center as well and all the work that you do. What can people expect that night, Jen?
So we're so thrilled to have you as our host this year, Sam. So this year we'll be hosting an event of fun, fundraising, memories, networking, and bringing together business leaders and community supporters, as well as friends and family of the late Dennis Jackson. This is going to be an evening of bits, bites, and bids, and it's going to feature elements of philanthropy, inspiration, and hope for our future. We're going to have some wonderful live music from Ron Ferguson and his group. Ron Ferguson is going to be on the flugelhorn, which is a softer sounding trumpet. We've got Mark Langness on a stand-up bass. Mark shared the stage with Celine Dion for 20 years and is now the director of the conservatory in Hull. And of course, we have Mark Ferguson, who plays the piano. And Mark is a teacher at Carleton. He's played with everyone from Ella Fitzgerald and Tony Bennett. We are thrilled to have on board Joe from, I'm going to struggle with his last name here, bear with me.
From Coconut Lagoon?
From Coconut Lagoon, who's going to be putting up some delicious delicacies. He's an award-winning chef, and he's going to be preparing some delicious food with the help of St. Joe's Women's Center kitchen crew.
That's fantastic. Chef Joe Thatungo is one of my favorite people as well. Yes. So it's going to be a great night. I know how hard you're working, Jen, so thank you for all of that, and thanks to everyone that's participating on November the 24th. I know we can still get some tickets, Jen, so they can reach out to you at St. Joe's Women's Center. Thanks so much for everything you do, Jen Clark.
Thank you so much for having me, Sam. Really looking forward to it.
My pleasure. Jen Clark spending time with us today. St. Joe's Women's Center, as I mentioned, we're going to be honoring the late Dennis Jackson, and we miss him terribly. When we come back, Tom D'Amico is going to be here today, Director of Education for the Ottawa Catholic School Board. Now, there is a very busy person today, but he is taking time out of his busy day to spend time to update parents, of course, teachers on what's happening right now. We know the Ottawa Catholic School Board, they are not in class today. My daughter is at home. She is studying at home today, as well as many other students that attend the Ottawa Catholic School Board. We're going to be getting an update, as I mentioned, from Tom D'Amico right after the news. Lock it in to Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
After a 2-year hiatus, we are back with brand new episodes of Celebrate Ottawa starting this fall. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that will entertain you and will even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grind, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa. On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 4th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, 11 degrees. In Smith Falls, it is 13. And here's what's making news this hour. Today is the first day of an illegal strike by 55,000 education workers in this province after the Ford government passed legislation forcing a contract on them. And even though individuals and the union face stiff fines for walking off the job, many of them have hit the picket lines across the province, including at Queen's Park. City News reporter Kevin Meisner tells us there are over 1,000 people at the legislature where a massive rally is underway. And in the Ottawa area, rallies are happening at busy intersections and in front of the offices of PC MPPs, including Lisa MacLeod, Marilla Fullerton, and John Jordan in Smiths Falls. And only schools on the English Public Board, the Renfrew County Catholic District School Board, and the French Catholic Board are open for in-person classes. The rest of the local school boards are closed. The Director of Education at the Renfrew County District School Board, Pino Buffoni, tells City News the board is working on several contingency plans in the event that the strike goes on for a lengthy period of time. And the most prominent trucker convoy organizer is back on the stands this morning. Tamara Leach is being cross-examined at the Public Order Emergency Commission as it evaluates the government's use of the emergency's powers amid the weeks-long protest in the downtown Ottawa area. Yesterday, Leach told the commission that she joined the convoy after failing to get a response from members of parliament that she contacted about ending COVID-19 restrictions. City News time is 10:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, after 150 days of trying to negotiate a contract, it is not to be. We know that a number of education workers and CUPE is on strike today. We know the province has implemented the notwithstanding clause. It has been a very challenging and stressful week for many, including, of course, education workers, including parents and teachers, and, of course, the province as well. We know that Tom D'Amico has been very busy this week. He's the Director of Education for the Ottawa Catholic School Board, and he joins me now. Hi, Tom.
Good morning, Sam.
Tom, thanks so much. I know how busy you are today. Let's get right down to all the details. So we know today no one is at school at the Ottawa Catholic School Board, correct?
Well, we do have some staff at the schools, but there's no students attending in person today. They've all moved to remote.
And tell us what kind of pressure this put on the school board today, Tom.
Well, there's a lot of pressure. I think the first pressure is on parents. So parents that have their children at home, especially younger children, it's a real balancing act to try and determine how to do their own jobs or be in two places if there's no school to send them to. So that's certainly one of the greatest challenges. It's a great challenge on our CUPE staff members, the far majority who are right now out taking part in, it's changed now from a strike position to an illegal strike now that the legislation has passed. I believe the CUPE is calling it a political protest and the ministry is calling it legal strikes. Either way, the impact is the same on our boards. We don't have the staff we need to provide safe instruction in person.
Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting because, I mean, you had to close today, obviously, and I know the word essential means so much when it comes to the legislation, but, you know, they obviously are essential because you couldn't open up the doors of all these schools across the region because the education workers were not at work today.
Yes, that's correct. So we had to look at individually school by school. So that's really important because if you had no education assistance at a particular school or depending on your office structure, there's always the possibility you could continue your school without the CUPE members. That's not the situation for our board. There are boards that their only CUPE members are their caretakers or custodians. And as we know, the caretakers and custodians are also extremely important in our schools for health and safety. Some of those boards that's their only job category, they may be open for a couple of days, but at some point it will become a health and safety issue for them and they'll need to move to remote. So for our board, they are essential for us to offer, just as our teachers are essential to offer instructions to students. So it is very problematic. It's very disruptive to the education sector.
Are you hearing from parents today, Tom?
We've heard from some parents. It's interesting because there really are two sides, and some parents are taking the side of we need to have all of our students back in school, and they do not agree with the position that CUPE has taken. They do not agree with the ask for labor negotiations. Other parents have called or have indicated that their children will not take part in remote learning because they value the work that CUPE is doing, and they will be out there supporting CUPE on picket lines. So there really are two sides, and as a board, we have to respect the choice and the options that everyone has. For us, it comes under the Education Act. We have a legal responsibility to provide instruction. So that's where it starts for us. Then we have to make sure the instruction can be done safely, and we have to balance that with the Occupation Health and Safety Act, which indicates we have to keep our staff safe. So all of those put together, we're not trying to be political. We're looking at what we have to do, and that's why we're offering remote learning. There still could be other court challenges taking place, but that's not going to be done by the board. So that will be done by whether it's the unions or the government. We're still hoping that they find some way to get a resolution. We know the bill is in place, but we also know that because of the illegal strike or job protests, political protests taking place, we can't offer in-person learning.
So this is today, November the 4th, Friday. What does Monday look like if they're still not coming to the classroom?
So Monday we'll still have no in-person learning if there's no resolution that's found between now and Monday morning. The difference will be our educators, which is now it's mainly our teachers, will be moving to synchronous learning on a regular basis. So very similar to what took place during the pandemic, which we know did not work for many students, but that's the best effort we can put at this time to allow for safety. So it'll look like a traditional day with the start and end times of the day. Teachers will connect online. Our board uses a system called Google Meet for the video conferencing and Hapara for delivering the resources. So the teacher will be there with the students face-to-face online. During the day, it doesn't mean they're 6 hours or 5 hours online face-to-face. It could be times where they shut their computer down or they shut their camera off and they're doing reading or independent work, but they are connecting throughout the day and there is instruction happening face-to-face online.
What if this goes on for, dare I say, weeks?
Well, we have no indication of when it will end, so we'll continue to monitor both the news cycle that you're reporting. Often we're hearing it from the news as well. If the ministry provides us any new guidelines, we will follow those guidelines, and if CUPE changes any of their approach, we'll certainly react to whatever is happening in the political sphere. If it goes long term, we'll have to move to remote as we did during the pandemic. So we made it through the remote pandemic. It was not the best scenario, but it was better than no offering at all. school. So we'll continue to look at best solutions. There will be some students that we will find in the next couple of days cannot connect or they cannot do any remote learning. So if it does go long term, we'll have to find individual solutions. So I know it'd be nice to have a statement to say, here's what we're doing for all those that can't connect. But we have 47,000 students, and there's so many different scenarios for each family. So we really have to work on them one by one, teacher and student, to find the solutions that will work best for each family. So that's what we'll be doing, starting with today, looking at some of those challenges. And then next week, if it continues, we'll have the regular remote learning for most students, and then we'll look at alternative options for those that just can't connect or learn remotely.
And there's where unfortunately, those inequities really come to light, Tom. I know we saw them during the pandemic as well. You'd have, one family and they would have, a couple of tablets and full strong internet. And then you have another family that doesn't have any electronics and no internet connection. And that, it's really unfortunate for students. And I know that's something that you're working with as well.
Yes, we invested millions of dollars during the pandemic, so that's a positive outcome of the pandemic, that we have many more devices than we've ever had. So from grades 3 to 8, we have a one-to-one model, so we do have enough devices for those grades. The majority of our high school students, but not all, have their own device. 1 to 3, our model is a shared model, so not everyone has a device. With the anticipation of the strike possibly happening for this year, we did order almost another $1 million worth of devices. We're still waiting for some of those deliveries, so we will have those available if this goes long term. One of our new challenges that we did not have during the pandemic was most of our IT support staff, those that prep the computers, the laptops, make sure they're ready to connect on the internet and support our internet, they are CUPE members. So many of them are not available to us, and they were during the pandemic. So our staff are doing whatever they can do to make it work, and our principals and vice principals, obviously they're not in the union, so they are on the management side of doing whatever they can to offer learning to our students. So they're all doing their best, as we know the parents are, and the students, unfortunately, as we saw during the pandemic, they're not getting the level of education that we want them to receive during an in-person learning school experience.
Well, and quite honestly, the lens of mental health. I mean, as you know, Tom, my daughter goes to a school through the Ottawa Catholic School Board, and that's one thing that she's in grade 10, right? I mean, they're starting to talk about this. You think about grade 12 students as well that are thinking, oh, is my year going to be disturbed? I mean, they've been through so much, Tom, and I'm not taking sides in terms of CUPE. I mean, I have my own personal opinion about it, but let's just focus on the mental health of students. This might weigh heavily on your mind as well, Tom.
It certainly starts almost all of our conversations when we look at the mental health and well-being of our students. That's why we moved back as soon as we could to in-person learning, and we continued to offer any type of mental health and wellness supports that we could. We focused with the return to school that needed to be a priority in all of our subjects. It's not just teaching about it for a day and then you move on. It has to be part of every single class every day when you look at what do students need to meet with success. Our clinical staff at the Ottawa Catholic School Board are amazing. So we have social workers, psychologists, mental health workers, addiction counselors. They will continue to offer supports and services where needed, and they'll do it in an online capacity. So that still happens, but it doesn't get at the majority of students who are in your regular classes, who are feeling the anxiety of not having the regular routine, feeling disrupted, feeling that what's going on, once again, I'm impacted. So that is certainly a key area, and another reason all of us would like to see us get back to in-person learning. And I will highlight that there are a small percentage of students in our board, it's about between 1% and 2% now, that they do learn best online. So for those students, they tend to be in our 2 virtual schools, and they really are not impacted in any great extent during this latest change because they're already in a remote learning day-to-day basis. So they will continue as is.
Mm-hmm. Really appreciate it. You've been very kind to spend so much time with us this week. I know how busy it is. We'll let you get back at it. Tom D'Amico spending time with us today, Director of Education for the Ottawa Catholic School Board. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
We're following this very, very closely here at City News. We are looking at every sort of angle you can possibly imagine. We have reached out as well to Laura Walton, who is the head of the union, to join us today. We haven't heard back from her yet. We are hoping to hear back from Laura Walton. We've reached out to a number of different stakeholders in this discussion because we want to get all sides and bring all sides to you. One thing I can tell you is that I know, being an education assistant, and once again, I have never done this kind of work, but I have a lot of people in my network that do this kind of work. I could never do that kind of work. And I'm hoping that Mr. Lecce and Mr. Ford and all of the people making decisions on this from the province's side understand what the commitment that is to do that kind of work. It is tough, and I could never do it. So I appreciate that. I'm hoping there is a resolution over the weekend and kids can get back into the classroom, and this has only been a one-day disruption. We're going to be following any of that breaking news for you here on City News. You'll want to stay with us on Rogers TV. We appreciate you tuning in and, of course, listening here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. Now available online at GabrielPizza.com.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit StopTrackTragedies.ca.
It's about living life to its fullest. And it's about laughing out loud. We are L'Arche Canada, and we're about witnessing and sharing the gifts of all people. Learn more about us today.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, how many times have you heard this? Mom, Dad, there's nothing to eat. I understand, kids. There's only ingredients. You have to put them together in order to make something to eat. We'll tell you how to take some of those pantry staples and turn them into a fabulous recipe. Also, the Itty Bitty Art Show is happening in Carleton Place. We'll give you all the details on that. And, of course, we'll tell you about all the events that are coming up over the weekend right here on Daytime Ottawa.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
I love going on little road trips here on City News. We're going to take a little road trip all the way to beautiful Carleton Place. How are you, Robin Arsenault? Hi, Robin. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for checking in with us today on City News. Executive Director of the Carleton Place and District Memorial Hospital Foundation. I know how busy you have been because you have some exciting news to share.
we have some amazing news, and I don't know if you've been watching the news or not, but we have been working very hard to raise the community share of funds in order to build a brand new emergency department building attached to the hospital here in Carleton Place.
That's fantastic news, and I know that the community has really come together. You've got some great champions as well. Talk about some of the people that have made this happen, Robin.
Yeah, so we are now at the place where shovels are in the ground, and that would not have been possible without all of our amazing donors. We have been working hard through a leadership phase and a public phase, through many challenges with, being able to meet publicly and then not being able to meet publicly, but we are only $775,000 away from our final total goal, and to date, we've had over 1,067 donors come forward with gifts to this campaign.
Wow, that's incredible. And when I think about this campaign, I can't help but think about the commitment of the Kavanaugh family. Talk a little bit about their commitment.
They're just phenomenal. As a family, I know with anyone who's ever worked for the Kavanaughs, they do say it's a family environment, and you're well loved and embraced. And they are locally based. And Lori herself, the daughter of Thomas Kavanaugh, is our co-chair for a campaign. So she's been involved from before even the very beginning with work and being a part of looking at this project here at the hospital. And then she jumped on really early with the campaign along with Richard Kidd, the Beckwith Reeve, and they've both been really great at supporting and leading this campaign and speaking with donors and asking for gifts. So not only is she a co-chair of the campaign, but very much also our lead donor with $1 million gift.
And I think anyone I've ever spoke to that's been part of this campaign, passion has been the main ingredient. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And of course, we lost a very dear colleague here at Rogers Radio, here at City News, and that was the one and only Janice Tompkins. And I know how much Janice believed in this project, and she had so much passion for it as well. And we've all come together to make sure that Janice is recognized in all of this as well. Robin, tell us a little bit about the work with the Janice Tompkins Fund.
Yeah, and Janice and I worked on this even before we knew that it was going to be approved by the ministry to start working on this project. So I've known Janice for many years before this started, and we were both always fired up about, okay, when it comes, this is what we're going to do. And just to see the passion in Janice's eyes and knowing that she's supporting her local hospital as well. But I think it's so wonderful that we have the Janice Tompkins Fund to honor this wonderful and amazing woman. And I know that she'd be really happy looking down and seeing that, her involvement and commitment and passion is still very much, you can feel it. Like, you can feel it in the air, and it's able to drive funds. So the Rogers family has definitely been a big supporter of this campaign as well, and Janice's spirit definitely still lives on. And just even being able to and if I can say this, to be able to raise funds in her name, it definitely helps with the grieving process for all of those who've had that pleasure and privilege of working with her. And she was, exactly as you say it, Sam, a driving force. She always had these fantastic ideas. We were going to have a huge concert. We were going to bring in all of these, amazing talents. And her enthusiasm for her hospital and supporting healthcare is really living on through the Janice Tompkins Funds and making this possible. So I really want to say thank you to everyone on the Rogers teams, and just for making this possible, that her legacy lives on with this project.
Well, another feisty member of our team, of course, is Terry Lynn Terrian, who has taken up this charge on behalf of Janice and Janice's family. And, without Terry Lynn as well, it truly does take a village. And I know Carleton Place District and Memorial Hospital Foundation has been so great to work with all of us as well. I want to stay in touch, Robin. Let's see this through. We're not giving up yet, Robin.
No, and I just want to say Terry Lynn's been an absolute joy to work with. She's also become a member of our campaign cabinet and helping in so many ways with this campaign. And I do want to say we do want to keep talking. This month of November is a really big month for the campaign as well. And if I can just add in that our hospital heroes and the staff, the volunteers, the board that makes our hospital so great, go above and beyond every day. They have reached their internal fundraising goal, and now they're raising additional funds to challenge the community. And you're going to hear a lot more about that in November, but they're putting out a challenge to everyone to say, we will match you dollar for dollar if you give to the campaign leading up to and ending on Giving Tuesday on November 29th.
Amazing. Beautiful message today. Thank you so much, Robin Arsenault, for joining us today. Executive Director for the Carleton Place and District Memorial Hospital Foundation. We're going to be keeping in touch with Robin on the minds of so many parents today, especially those parents in the Ottawa Catholic School Board and a number of other school boards that are affected today by the strike. We wanted to check in with a parent, and that is Anita Hartwick. Hi, Anita.
Hi.
Anita, tell me about your children. What grades are they in?
I have two children. One is in grade 10 and one is in grade 8.
What's today like for you, Anita?
I'm quite frustrated, to be honest. I feel like the kids are always the third priority when these contract negotiations come up.
And what are your kids saying about today? A lot of kids would say, hey, it's kind of cool. We don't have to go to school today. But a lot of kids think differently, Anita.
Yeah, my younger one she's quite upset. She's enjoying school this year. She's enjoying being back into a normal environment and taking advantage of school activities, et cetera. And she actually, in her own words, said that they don't think about the kids when they're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Is that hard for a mom to hear, especially everything we've been through?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. They've suffered a lot. The pandemic had a big impact on their education, on their well-being, and they are finally back into a more regular routine and able to enjoy school, and then to have it taken away from them again is frustrating.
And where do you sort of lay some of the responsibility? Do you lay it at the feet of the province and Mr. Lecce and Mr. Ford? Are you laying it the responsibility at the feet of the union, or is it a combination?
I think it's a combination. I don't feel like either side is negotiating in good faith. It seems to me like the tactics both sides are using are to win and to come to resolution. I mean, they were on strike and nobody's at the table talking, and I just don't see how that represents our kids' interests at all.
It's definitely, my daughter's at home as well. She's in grade 10 today, and, she has a number of activities certainly she was looking forward to next week, and she's already asking me about next week. Are your kids asking about next week already?
Yeah, that's kind of how the comment about they're not thinking about the kids came up. She has something next week, and there's probably a good chance that won't happen, and that's very disappointing. Mm-hmm. They've lost a lot, right? I mean, all kids have lost a lot in the last couple of years, and even before that, there was, I think, job action before the pandemic that impacted their school life.
It certainly has been challenging for kids, because I think, you're probably like myself, Anita, where the routine is so key, right, to keeping kids engaged and keeping those deadlines for them, especially as they get into older grades. They're working towards different project deadlines and that type of thing. So it's hard when that is all disrupted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm almost positive I saw something where they were saying that the EQAO results from last year showed that kids were lagging behind, and they need consistent education at this time.
Well, we're going to be following this very closely, Anita. Definitely stay with us here on City News, and we'll bring you any up-to-date news as we hear it. I appreciate the voice of a parent and the voice of your children coming through today. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Anita Hartwick joining us today, talking about the price that kids are paying for today's strike. We're going to be coming back on City News and on Rogers TV. We're going to be talking about the Pearly Health Centre. There is some big news for people that are going to be interested in, especially if they've got somebody that they're looking for a little bit of respite. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
That's the way I kill my skill sharpen, cause I've been here sharpening.
What's going on, y'all? It's Jay Morris, aka your favorite light skin, and you're gonna check out my performance on Encore Ottawa 3 coming up this week. Let's go.
All again, murderation, 911, call it in. Me, I murder every.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Hi, I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 4th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is 11 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it is 13. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. QP workers, supporters, and more are on the picket lines today. They are protesting back to work legislation from the Ford government that forces a new contract on its 55,000 members. City News reporter Chris Curries has the details.
Now, the question, though, is how long will these strikes last? I asked CUPE spokesperson Aaron Grant.
Oh, boy, I wish I had a crystal ball. I really don't know. I just know that we're out here today and we're prepared for this political protest today.
Occasional teacher Joan agrees.
I think we just need to send a clear message to the government that we do not support people being legislated back to work.
But there has been talk of fines on the table for workers who take the picket lines, and that has Jesse a little bit anxious.
It's a little bit of an anxious situation, but again, it's more, encouraging us to stand strong and stand together and just to keep fighting.
The support has been quite impressive, with the picket line constantly moving and car after car showing their support. In Nepean, Chris Curries, City News.
The action by the province to outlaw a strike by QP could have implications across the country. Labour unions are upset the notwithstanding clause was used to prevent these workers from taking any action to back their demands. The president of OPSU, JP Hornick, tells City News this affects teachers and others.
This has the potential to affect healthcare workers. This is an attack on freedom of expression, on freedom of association, and they've stripped away the right to challenge it in court.
Hornick says Labour unions won't stand for such treatment, and her 8,000 members are standing in solidarity with QP. And it's back to virtual school today for kids in the Renfrew County District School Board, as schools in that district have been shut because of the strike by QP workers. Pino Buffoni, the Director of Education for the Renfrew County District School Board, tells City News it hopes that the union and the government comes to a quick resolution.
We've been through a series of shifts from in-person learning in school to online learning at home. really our students, our staff, our school communities are used to that. What's unfortunate is that isn't the most ideal learning environment. We've been able to do that over the past 2.5 to 3 years, but it's not ideal for our students and our parents and guardians.
QPA has said that their members will stay off the job indefinitely, and Bufoni says the board is working on a contingency plan in the event that the strike goes on for an extended period. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Record warm highs on the way for today and possibly tomorrow as well. We'll have sun and cloud for most areas today. Any fog will dissipate. 19 the guaranteed high, 14 for the low, quite mild overnight, and up to 23 degrees for Saturday. We'll get into some showers Saturday night. Very strong gusty southwest wind as well. Heads up for that Saturday and for Sunday. Back to some sunshine Sunday, high near 20. And don't forget, clocks go back 1 hour Sunday. For today, the guaranteed high, 19.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, we're wanting to check in with all sorts of organizations around this city about how we're sort of getting back to some sort of normal. And Rachel DeKemp joins us now, Director of Nursing at the Pearly Health Center, an organization that I absolutely love. Rachel, how are you today?
Oh, hello, Sam. Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
I miss my time at the Pearly. I used to go a couple times a year and see how everybody was doing, and it's been a long time, Rachel.
Yeah, well, certainly we welcome you back anytime.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, we're welcoming back as well. Some of this convalescent care has been returned to the Pearly. What a relief this is.
It is a big relief for us. It's been a long time since we haven't had the convalescent program. And for your listeners, just to give you some background, the convalescent program was put on hold at the beginning of the pandemic because it was a real urgency for those beds to be transitioned to residents who were COVID positive or isolation. And that same kind of urgency isn't there anymore. So we were able to take those beds, we have 34 of them, and bring back our convalescent program. And convalescent is a program where we transition people from hospital to home. So those people that may be waiting in hospital and taking up a hospital bed that they don't actually need anymore, but they do need a little bit more physio, a little bit more restorative care before they go home. And so we're able to do that here on the Pearly Health site. And we have 34 beds to do that. Wow. It's an interdisciplinary approach to care. And it really does help the flow in the system and alleviate some of the pressures, the bed pressures that hospitals are having. Mm-hmm. But it's also a very targeted approach to what they need before they go home or perhaps they go on to rehab. It's a really great program, and we're excited to be reopening it again.
It is really too bad that it hasn't been operating the last couple of years for obvious reasons, as you mentioned, Rachel. But it is such a vital program. And how is this staffed? How is that program staffed?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the pandemic, when the program was closed and those beds were transitioned into COVID and isolation, the staff that were working in convalescent. We're working now with the COVID patient or COVID residents or COVID or isolation. So those staff now, since we haven't had as many residents with COVID or needing isolation, have been reassigned throughout the home. But now they're able to go back to those convalescent beds, which is really great. So we've been able to reassign them to areas where we really needed them when the pandemic was at its height as well, and even after when we had vacancies. So we're able to reassign them back to convalescence, and then we're continually recruiting to fill some of our current vacancies. We're not immune to that as the rest of the healthcare sectors, but it does give us an opportunity to recruit to our broader community of care, including convalescent. So it's a really great opportunity.
Oh, Rachel, I know the whole team works so hard for everyone at the Pearly Health Centre, and I'm very excited because this weekend we are featuring the Pearly Health Centre and the foundation and all the great work that's being done through the Answering the Call campaign on An Hour to Give this week. So we're very excited between 8 and 9 on Saturday and Sunday morning to be sharing the story of the Pearly Health Centre. So we wanted to share this exciting news too, that the convalescent care is returning to the Pearly Health Centre. Appreciate you always, Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Rachel DeKemp joining us, Director of Nursing at the Pearly Health Centre. Well, there is no two ways about it. This week we have needed our rolling blades rolling around this newsroom. It's been very, very busy with everything that's happening, of course, in terms of CUPE and the school boards and, of course, the province. We also have been following the Emergencies Act inquiry. One of the organizers that has brought in a lot of attention during this so-called Freedom Convoy has been Tamara Leach. She is on the stand today. She is testifying. We're going to bring a little bit of that to you now.
A right to have their voices heard.
Right. And my friends from the Government of Canada put to you a whole bunch of evidence that you weren't familiar with until you got here with respect to threats. Can you elaborate on any of the threats you've received, ones that you know members of the protesters received, as well as the legal counsel and even any of the legal counsel in this room since this proceeding started?
I know, well, I heard when I was at the ARC that the ARC was receiving death threats against me, which is one of the reasons why I left that location. I have messages on my phone from an Instagram account from a young man that wanted to not just shoot me, but also shoot the rest of the protesters or the convoy organizers. I know that my criminal lawyer has received some very nasty emails. I believe Mr. Wilson has received death threats and threatening emails.
Right. And so it's fair to say then that there has been a lot of threats on both sides.
That's fair.
Okay. But do you know anybody who's made death threats to any of these individuals?
Of course not.
Okay. And when you walk in here every day for the past few days, there's a protester outside, and I'm sure you've heard everything she's been saying, and she's a counter-protester and is against your cause. What are the sort of things that protester has said to you while you've been coming in and out of this hearing?
Well, it's been very hard to hear because there's a lot of construction. I just hear her shouting my name a lot. I heard her say something, I think just now, about she can't wait till I go back to jail, but other than that, I haven't really.
Did she mention anything about terrorism?
I believe that's right on her sign.
Oh, and what's it say?
It says, "Go home, terrorists."
Okay. Thank you.
We're listening at the Emergencies Act inquiry right now. Tamara Leach is testifying. We're going to head back there now here on City News.
Okay. I just have one question. You were taken to a chart and told there were charges for violent offenses.
Yes.
Do you know who was charged? Do you know the
With
4 people?
violent offenses?
Yeah, the 4 people.
I know I don't. Not that I can recall anyways.
So you don't know if it's someone you know or someone you don't know?
I do not, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you,
and
sir.
You're now free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that we move on to the next, which is the, I believe, the panel of 2 witnesses, and there's an issue.
We were listening into the testimony of Tamara Leach. We know she was a big part of the so-called Freedom Convoy. Lots of discussion there regarding, where the monies have gone, conversations between different people, who has been charged with what. We'll be following this. We're going to go just bring you another minute or 2 of this before we go to the break. Here we go.
Police service. We have a very real concern with respect to the witness panel of Chris Deering and Maggie Dingmer, I believe there is now a different name, and I apologize. It's Hope Braun, I believe. Those two individuals, and our concern is essentially one of procedural fairness. Those two individuals were not on the list of witnesses provided by the commission. And so last Friday... You mean they weren't on the original list? Correct. And what we found out was on last Friday, October 28th at 12:37 p.m., we received an email from the commission saying that these two individuals would be called as witnesses and attaching two statements from these individuals. No information.
We're just listening into some of the proceedings for the Emergencies Act inquiry. We're going to be following this for you all day. We're going to go out of it now. We know that Tamara Leach has just finished her testimony in terms of the Emergencies Act inquiry, whether the Emergencies Act was needed or not. We know we heard this week from Pat King as well. We know we heard from Chris Barber, a number of the individuals that were the main organizers of the convoy. So interesting testimony from all of them this week. We know that the testimony is going to have to wrap up at some point because that commission report is due in February. So we know that there are a number of people that still have to testify. Of course, we're watching. This is really interesting to me, whether Premier Doug Ford and Sylvia Jones, who was the Solicitor General at the time, if they're going to be appearing before this commission. We're going to be following that story very closely as well. Next week, I'm going to not be with you. I'm going to be working for the Legion National Foundation, and that's what I do when I'm not here on City News. I have another position, and I work very hard for veterans and a lot of the remembrance period time, so I'm going to be not here. Derek Fage will be in the big seat and bringing the Sam Laprade show to you, so we'll be making sure to give Derek a nice warm welcome. We want you to stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Ladies, leave your man at home tonight.
Hey, this is Dominique Orley. I'm a part of Encore 3, and be sure to catch my set this week.
We are going downtown, leaving out all your stress and your sorrow.
Our ancestors came here from France to build a better life. We lived here happily for generations. Until the British decided they wanted our land. The men were called to a meeting and then imprisoned. They demanded we swear an oath to their king and took everything, regardless. We were forced from Acadie, the only home we knew. Mon Acadie n'existera plus.
From 1755 to 1763, over 10,000 Acadians were ripped from their homeland. Despite this, Acadian culture endures in Atlantic Canada.
I am Audrey.
And I'm Leah.
Leah inspired me to play hockey. The War Amp has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine. What does yours do?
The stick clicks in it.
My device from the War Amp allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you for joining us here on City News and for tuning in on Rogers TV. We're so happy that you're here. There's always something exciting happening at Invest Ottawa, and we wanted to get caught up today with Megan Maltby. She is the manager, Accelerator Programs and Investor Relations, Venture Programs at Invest Ottawa. How are you, Megan?
Good. How are you?
Good. Do you have an oversized business card, Megan? Because that's a big title.
I know it is quite long.
It's awesome. There's always some great stuff going on, as I mentioned, Invest Ottawa. I think it's one of those places in our city. If you haven't been, you need to go. Tell us what's happening at Invest Ottawa.
Yeah, so we have tons happening. It's been an exciting week. Yesterday we held our annual entrepreneurship conference, Accelerate Aut. And actually this week we've graduated another company out of our accelerator program, Spiderwort. So been an exciting week.
That's fantastic. Tell us all about Spiderwort.
Yeah, so Spiderwort is a biotechnology company based here in Ottawa, and they essentially have a platform technology where they can create biomaterials out of plants. So the easiest way to really describe this is that they take plant matter and use that to create structures that can mimic perfectly other tissues that they would like to replace or replicate. So the funniest example, for the average person, their proof of concept study, they actually used an apple slice. They carved it in the shape of a human ear, and then they were able to actually grow human cells within that apple slice. So it's kind of an interesting story, but essentially using plant scaffolds to then create human cellular tissue.
It's like I'm listening to something from 100 years from now or something. It seems
I know,
like
it's
amazing. And I love that this stuff happens right in the capital. I think we often think about, big cities in the United States or maybe globally that all this, technology or new developments are coming, but it's right here in our very own city.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's amazing.
Tell us a little bit about the people behind Spiderwort.
Yeah, so the company was founded by two scientists, Dr. Charles Courier and then Andrew Pelling. And then we have supported them through our IO Accelerator program to really support the scientific team and then fill in on the business side. So we always say, we don't begin to pretend that we will be the ones to actually help with the scientific development of their product, but we've been able to fill in the gaps on the business side in terms of, helping to develop commercialization systems, helping them get through the regulatory process, and then helping quite a bit on talent and building out their team.
Wow. Do you ever just think to yourself, how the heck is this happening in this city and the talent that's happening in this city? It's really remarkable.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, we have so many different companies that are doing remarkable things. That is just one example. Spiderwort is definitely groundbreaking, but we work with hundreds of companies across the region that are making a positive impact on the world through their unique technology solutions.
That's fantastic. What else is happening, Megan? How can people get involved if you're inspiring somebody right now? How can they get involved?
Yeah. So we're a unique organization. We do a lot. And essentially, if you are an entrepreneur or a founder in a tech business or a non-tech business, we should be able to provide some sort of support. So for tech founders, we have what we call the Venture Path. And these are a number of different programs that are available for free to really help those founders take their idea, create a true business around it. We help them with all of the fundamentals in terms of incorporation, the legal, building out their initial co-founding team, actually undertaking customer discovery and developing a product, and then, of course, developing processes to help market and sell that product. So along that venture path, we have our earliest stage program called Ignition. This is a boot camp for solo founders that just have an idea. After that, we have our accelerator program, which is the program that I manage. This is designed for really growth stage startups that have already experienced some traction in market. And then we help them grow that to about $2 million in annual revenue. And then once they graduate from the accelerator program, they enter our scale-up program, the last step on our venture path. And that is designed for companies right from that $2 to $3 million mark. And we are aiming to help create more $100 million businesses here in Ottawa.
Wow.
So that's kind of the last step, and we're here to fill the gaps at every point in between.
It's amazing, Megan. Honestly, I just love visiting Bayview Yards. And once again, for those that haven't been there, it is wonderful. I mean, you walk in the front doors and it just feels alive, and you just can tell that there's just so much going on in there. And I'm just so proud that this is part of the capital. Thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah, no problem. It was great to chat with you.
Always a pleasure. Megan Maltby joining us, manager of the Accelerator Programs, Investor Relations, and Venture Programs at Invest Ottawa. That's a very big job. You can tell how passionate she is about that, which is great. Lots of great guests for you. When we come back, we're going to be speaking a little bit later with Ari Goldkind, criminal defense lawyer. We're going to be checking in about that testimony we heard from Tamara Leach. She just finished testifying. We just followed that a little bit for us today, and we had an opportunity to hear from Tamara today in regards to how she saw this Freedom Convoy, and the end result of all this inquiry is, did we need the Emergencies Act? And I don't know about you, if you're following any of this, but certainly, some of the line of questioning that I'm hearing, I don't know how it actually really belongs in the main question of this inquiry is, did we need the Emergencies Act? Some of the line of questioning seems to be a bit strange for me, but that's just me. I'm not a lawyer, so we'll ask Ari Goldkind a little bit about that. We had a very, very busy time, of course, over the last number of days following everything regarding CUPE, but there is some good news in our city, which I want to share a little bit. Last night was a very, very special ceremony, and that was when a number of people, 16 people, received different awards from the Order of Ottawa. I'd like to briefly share some of those names with you now. Natasha Beckett, Cynthia Bland. Cynthia Bland has joined us here a lot on City News. She is with an organization called Voices Found. Lieutenant Colonel Francis Chiltern McKay, Catherine Cotton, Gillian Gailey, Gipsy Glosh, Harvey Glatt. Now, Harvey Glatt, boy, oh boy, he is incredible, very, very big part of our team here over the years, certainly very connected to radio, and we're just so happy for Harvey. Jocelyn Lamont, Melissa LaRocque, Gavin Lumsden, our own Gavin Lumsden from Rogers TV. We're so happy for Gavin. He is certainly one of the most kind people in our city and does so much, and it's nice for him to be recognized. Lane McAdam, Janet Mason, Susan Richards, Zabina Richards, and Chris Singel. As well, there was another award given out last night, and it's the Brian Kilray Award for Excellence, and Kevin Ling received that award. Kevin has joined us a lot here on City News as well. He is with and owns the Sooners Football Club, and we're so happy for all of the amazing people in our city that was recognized last night by Mayor Watson, and we know that's one of the last events that Mayor Watson will be attending. Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe will be in the big chair soon. November 15th is going to be the big day for the new mayor and council. We're going to be following, obviously, that very closely as well. You were with us here on Rogers TV. Thanks so much for tuning in. We really enjoy having all of you view us on Rogers TV and follow all the breaking news as well. And of course, we always love when you tune in to City News. Stay with us, everyone.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
That's the way I kill my skill shopping, because I've been here sharpening.
What's going on, y'all? It's Jay Morris, a.k.a. your favorite light skin, and you're going to check out my performance on Encore Ottawa 3 coming up this week. Let's go.
All again, murderation, 911, call it in. Me, I murder every...
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talk.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa storytellers. Each week, we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 4th. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is 14 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it is 15. And here's what's making news this hour. Ontario's education workers have hit the picket line in the first day of a strike, with QP members vowing to fight against what they call draconian legislation that makes today's job action illegal and imposes a 4-year contract on them. QP Ontario President Fred Hann says they are not willing to withdraw strike action unless the government repeals the bill that they passed yesterday. Now, City News reporter Momin Qureshi is at the legislature, which is the venue of one of the protests today, and it tells us there are thousands of education support workers and their supporters currently marching around the Queen's Park Circle Road in the provincial capital. Now, in the Ottawa area, most schools are closed with the exception of the English Public Board, the Renfrew County Catholic District Board, and the French Catholic Board. And the Director of Education at the Renfrew County District School Board. One of the school boards that is offering virtual classes today tells City News they are doing 2 days of asynchronous learning today and on Monday. On Tuesday, they'll shift to synchronous learning with teachers taking their classes. As for the Ottawa Catholic School Board, Director Tom D'Amico tells us only staff are at the schools today. With kids moved to remote learning, he says the board is not taking a political stance by closing its schools. They are only trying to ensure that everyone involved, including the children, the staff, and the education workers, are safe. And the Ottawa Senators are on the market. Senator Sports and Entertainment says the process has been initiated for the sale of the NHL club, with the condition of any sale being that the team stays in Ottawa. Former Senators owner Eugene Melnick died on March 28th at the age of 62 after battling an illness. Recent valuations from Sportico, an organization that reports on the business of sports, listed the Senators at $655 million in value. City News time is 11:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on City News. I'm Sam Laprade. We are getting ready for a fantastic lunch today. We've invited 3 people to the table today, so it's going to be a really dynamic opportunity to hear about all of those top news stories of the day. I'm sure you can guess a few of them. We're going to be having lunch just after the 12 o'clock news today. We hope that you'll stay with us and feast on some of those big news topics of the day. One of the big news topics of the day, of course, is the Emergencies Act inquiry. We're watching this on a minute-by-minute basis. We did tune in a little bit earlier, heard a little bit about what Tamara Leach has to say. Just as we were tuning in, she wrapped up her testimony. So we wanted to get caught up today with Ari Goldkind, criminal defense lawyer. Hi, Ari.
Great to be on with you.
Thank you so much, Ari. We've been following this. I wish, honestly, I could spend all day watching it because it's every single moment just seems to be another interesting piece of testimony. What did you hear from Tamara Leach that you want to share with us today?
Well, I think it's more not what she says, but what's not being said under the surface and what this is really all about. I mean, to me, my concern has been from the beginning of this that this is more of a political show. It's more political theater, that while it's supposed to look like a quasi-judicial theory being headed by a judge of the Court of Appeal of Ontario, it really has taken the tone, if you look at the reporting on it, if you look at the coverage on it, whether it be in legacy media or anti-social media. Full disclosure, you should know I never call it social media. It's anything but. Is essentially this narrative. Freedom Convoy bad, Ottawa residents good. Well, that's not the litmus test, and that's not the legal inquiry or the basis for understanding or deciphering whether the legal prerequisites were in place for the Emergencies Act to be invoked as if the sky was falling, it was nuclear Armageddon or World War III. To me, Tamara Leach, in her testimony, comes across as, and again, I'll debate this till the cows come home with anybody, an ordinary, average Canadian who felt like their government, their society, the rules put in place, left them behind, and they wanted to have a voice and to be heard. And the conjecture that she had to deal with in her examination, as if this was January 6th and there's a Chewbacca man, to me, she just brought it back to, this wasn't the battle I wanted. This wasn't the battle I wanted to be involved in. I want to be a grandmother. I'd rather have never been here and this be anonymous. But we wanted a voice. We wanted to be heard. And it's interesting to me that all of the people that you're seeing on that side of the equation, and full disclosure, very few people know what I actually think about the convoy. I didn't think that the downtown should be occupied in the way that they use the word occupy, just for people to know, is just you're hearing from somebody and from a number of people that have been left behind and ignored in this society. And as time has shown and the science has morphed, changed, or become honest, they had a very valid point. So I don't think her examination contained the bombshells or gotcha moments that those who hate her, by the way, people who have never met her, isn't that interesting in this day and age? I don't think it contained much that we didn't know. And that would be my bigger takeaway about what we're not getting here and what we're missing, and my smaller takeaway about her evidence so far.
So, Ari, if it got out of control for her, if she felt like it wasn't sort of within the control of the organizers anymore, why not send a message and say, hey, guys, let's just shut this down. We've made a point. Let's not disturb the people of Ottawa anymore. And we, you know, let's try and get our message across other ways. Do you think this just got out of her control? She was happy to accept the money, right?
Well, no, I don't necessarily see it that way about the money. I don't see it as she had $24 million in the piggy bank, and it was up to her to control exclusively. First of all, the fact that it was revealed yesterday that it's about $24 million, that's actually really significant. And my concern, and you and I have not spoken about this before, was the use of the Emergencies Act to go after law-abiding, ordinary, average Canadians' bank accounts and freeze them. I can assure you bank accounts would not have been frozen and the Emergencies Act invoked if the Freedom Convoy was based on another group from May of 2020 or a different political cause or filled with people on the far left of the spectrum.
So when you're referring to May of 2020, are you referring to George Floyd?
Correct. And there isn't a chance on the planet we would be talking about this, or if the Emergencies Act would have been invoked, if the exact same kind of protest or occupation happened in, by the way, the downtown of this country's capital. This was not Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. This was not Rainy River, Ontario. So as much as I sympathize that some residents and some businesses were put out, and I do, I've been very open about it, that nobody should have had to go through this. If not there, then where? An empty field in the middle of a park in Ottawa? Maybe. But if you look at the Freedom Convoy, and people forget this, this is very important. People forget just how soon after the Freedom Convoy, or contemporaneous with it, the rules started to change. The rules started to be backtracked on. So as much as I can agree with your listeners, I know where you are, I know where we're talking, who hate her, despise her, say that Ottawa deserved peace and quiet and kumbaya. If this was a protest that was more in line with the zeitgeist of the day, the political order of the day, and there was no violence, there were no shootings, no police stations being burned, nobody doing, nefarious things other than being annoying and mischievous, pun intended if you know her criminal charges, I just don't think that this Emergencies Act inquiry would look the way it does. And to me, where I see the reporting is almost always hedged with they're on the bad side. They're these people in Alberta and out west that we thumb our noses at. That's not what this Emergencies Act inquiry is about. It's whether the legal prerequisites were there to impose a mandate and an act that had never been used in Canada. And when you watch the narratives of the OPP, the different people testifying, the cookie is crumbling. And the only way to save it until the Prime Minister gets on the stand or into the witness box is to continually personalize this or politicize it. And as somebody who has a keen interest in the legal aspect of this, the political aspects to me are obvious. The focus must remain on, was this the tool, the item of last resort, or were there other tools in the toolbox that would have fixed this? That is what is being missed.
We can absolutely agree on the fact that I find a lot of the questioning is not from all sides. A lot of the questioning has got nothing to do with should the Emergencies Act inquiry have been instated or not. I do agree with you there. But back to my original question. If this got out of control and if they realized it, why continue week after week after week, knowing that the harm was being done to people? A lot of the harm, to be honest with you, was done to the residents and to the businesses, not directly to the government. So why not shut it down? Why not say, hey, listen, there's parents with newborns that are having to move so that they can actually have their baby sleep at night?
Great question. I'm going to answer. And by the way, I like that you're a host who challenges me. I hate sycophantic interviews, and you know I do many of these. So I like your question. I'm going to push back respectfully. Yes, there were some parents with newborns that probably wanted to pull their hair out. But for 2 years, there's a segment of our society who are parents with newborns that lost their jobs, that lost their incomes, that lost their ability to pay rent or their mortgage, that lost their ability in an insane inflationary time to afford the cost of living. So while I completely agree with you and sympathize, and if I was downtown and trying to sleep, I'd be going nuts. I'd probably want to weaponize myself. I'm making a joke and become a Canadian who doesn't take it anymore. Mm-hmm. There is the flip side that I simply don't forget the other side, which their point was to protest a regime, a democratically elected regime, mind you, that was making it extraordinarily different for a significant number of Canadians with newborns, just like your example, to forward in life, to remain employed, and sometimes, and again, I don't think most of your listeners will agree with me, and quite frankly, I don't care. Protests are not supposed to be enjoyed by the people inconvenienced. If you told me that this was in Rainy River, Moose Jaw,
right. But I think if people, but Ari, if people say, listen, I'm going to live in the downtown core, I know there's going to be protests. And I'll tell you, I speak a lot with people from 613-819 Black Hub. They will tell you that when they started to protest, they didn't last 24 hours and they were removed. right? So people accept that there's going to be protests in the downtown core. They accept it might be 24 hours, 48 hours, not a month. Not a month. I mean, if you're going to live downtown, you know that there's going to be Blues Fest. You know that there's going to be protests. You know that there's going to be Canada Day. You don't expect people that are going to set up boom boxes and hang out there for a month with their bouncy castle and their pig roast. I mean, come on.
Well, okay. So again, I don't know how much time we have till you have to go to break. I'll respond to that. Your point about the boom boxes and the honking of the horns, you're quite right about. I do not disagree with you, particularly the tractor-trailer horns. To me, a competent police force, and I mean that literally to you, a competent police force would have had officers at the ready. Every time a trailer horn honked, once the injunction told them didn't, those people would have been arrested and hauled off to jail. You and I are on the same page about that. But I find it a false equivalency, and I'm not criticizing you for it. You don't have to agree with me, and that's fine. That's why there's 31 flavors of ice cream. I do not equate bouncy castles and pig roasts and trucks being parked there in a protest that, in my view, was as important as any other protest over the last 3 years. The horn honking, the noise, 100% agree with you. But, again, when the Prime Minister of the country calls these people, he's not the Prime Minister of the 33% or whatever percent votes for him. He's the Prime Minister of the 67% who don't. When you call them a bunch of names before they even get there, when you call them the essentially Hillary Clinton, they're deplorable. When you say I won't talk to them, because you know, you're smart enough to know if the protest was something on the other side, he would have been down there with bells on. This is a prime minister that would go to the opening of a door. When you do that, you are leaving people who have been felt left behind. You are leaving them to make their point. Maybe they didn't make it in the point that you and I would like, and I agree with that, and I understand that. But there are two sides to the equation, and again, if you wouldn't go, not you, I don't mean this personally to you, if critics wouldn't go ballistic, if the protest was something they supported, let's say it was a 1 month long protest to say jail sentences are too long and the jails don't work right and the criminal justice system don't work right, we wouldn't be having this conversation. People would say this is immediate until the government makes change or meets with them. We understand why they're in the bouncy castles. Where I become very troubled is this equation to bouncy castles and pig roasts to the kind of rhetoric you're hearing at this hearing that these people are January 6th Capitol mob terrorists. I think it's unwise. I think it's unfair. And that being said to you, I see more nuance here probably than others do, but democracy can sometimes get messy. And if there was ever a place to do it, it's the downtown of Ottawa when the Prime Minister essentially tells you, go fly a kite.
Let's do this again, Eric Goldkind.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate the conversation today. Ari Goldkind joining us, criminal defense lawyer, talking about the Emergencies Act inquiry. We'd always not agree with people, but certainly the debate is important. When we come back, we're going to have lots of great guests for you. We're going to talk a little movies because we're heading into the weekend, everyone. Keith Whittier's going to be here. Lock it in to City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, how many times have you heard this? Mom, Dad, there's nothing to eat. I understand, kids. There's only ingredients. You have to put them together in order to make something to eat. We'll tell you how to take some of those pantry staples and turn them into a fabulous recipe. Also, the Itty Bitty Art Show is happening in Carleton Place. We'll give you all the details on that. And, of course, we'll tell you about all the events that are coming up over the weekend right here on Daytime Ottawa.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
After a 2-year hiatus, we are back with brand new episodes of Celebrate Ottawa starting this fall. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that will entertain you and will even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grind, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
From coast to coast, all across Canada, there's something very special going on. It's time to show your support. Time to spread the word. Time to demonstrate your commitment to safe and sober driving. Join thousands of Canadians and tie a ribbon on something or someone you love. And take the time to have a real conversation about impaired driving. Mad Project Red Ribbon. Tie it, wear it, show it, share it, live it. Find out more at mad.ca.
Ladies, leave your man at home tonight.
Hey, this is Dominique Orley. I'm part of Encore 3, and be sure to catch my set this week.
We are going downtown, leaving out all your stress and your sorrow.
Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, it's Friday, and it's just after 11:45. You know what that means? It's time for Keith Whittier, so you can decide what you're going to watch this week. Keith Whittier joins me now. Hi, Keith.
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you? You're good? Life's good for you?
I've got no complaints. I'm talking to Sam Laprade on a Friday. Things are beautiful.
You're very sweet. We go to you because you are a fantastic movie reviewer, and we've got a few clips we're going to play because we want to get a little taste of each of these. We're going to start with the movie Till.
I got a letter today from Auntie Lizzie. She said Bo's been working the fields. Can't imagine. Oh, he just doesn't understand how different things are in Mississippi. Are you listening?
Yes.
Be small down there.
Like this?
He never thought anything would happen to him.
Meet the mommy, Simmy!
He just wanted to go on vacation and have fun with his cousins. But if my son could just get his feet back onto the Chicago soil, he'd be one happy kid.
Oh, Keith, tell me about this. This sounds like my kind of movie.
Yeah, so this is based on the true story of Emmett Till, a 14-year-old young black man who lived in Chicago, went down to visit some relatives in Mississippi, and he had an encounter with a white woman who was early 20s. Now, it's a little foggy in terms of what happened. It was something along the lines of he might have potentially whistled at her. Maybe it was the way he touched her hand. Anyways, it blew up into a thing where he ended up getting kidnapped, beaten, and lynched, and it really galvanized a whole movement down south. Again, it's based on a true story. It's one of those films that I really enjoyed it for what it was, in the sense of a true depiction or an accurate depiction of what happened, because I've done some research on it. But that being said, is it the type of movie that I'm probably going to go back to and watch again and again? No, it's not. The subject matter is very, very challenging to watch, but at the same token, I do recommend it. The strength of this film really comes from the lead actress, Danielle Deadwyler, who I've seen in other films before, but this is her first film, I believe, as a lead, and she does a great job in terms of capturing the emotion of a mother who would be going through something so horrifying and terrifying as having your son, brutally murdered. So Till, again, not the brightest part of American history, but a part of it nonetheless. Something that's still, I think that resonates today. I think it's still important to look at movies like this and have conversations about it. And it's in theaters now. So
and Keith, when these tragic situations happen, often this is how people learn about our history, if you will, right? Learn about the history of the world is through film.
100%. Listen, growing up in school in Ottawa, I can't say that these were things that were in the classroom, but and we've seen a lot of times, whether it's an unfortunate tale like this or something like Hidden Figures, in terms of the importance that three Black women had on the NASA program, and the list goes on and on and on about just different things that we might not know that film is an introduction to.
Brilliant. Let's hear a little bit from Decision to Leave.
저기 올라가 봐야 할 텐데. 왜 굳이 일로 올라가요? 많이 놀라셨겠습니다. 남편이 죽었는데 안 놀랐대. 웃는 거 봤어? 아, 미안합니다.
제가 했어요.
자해를 했더니 알아듣던가요?
마침내.
Okay, Keith, is it just me? Is it just Friday and it's been a long week? Was that in a foreign language?
That was. I love that you play the trailers because you obviously want to give your audience a little bit of the film. Your listeners who are familiar with Korean will recognize that. This is a movie, Decision to Leave, that I am early prediction, definitely going to be nominated for Best International Film at the upcoming Oscars. This is from the same director who did a movie years ago called Old Boy, which then Spike Lee made into a film, and everyone you talk to will tell you need to see the Korean version. This is a film about a detective who's investigating a murder, and at the center of the investigation, wouldn't you know, it's the widow of the victim. So of course she's the prime suspect, and now they kind of have like this interesting dynamic. This movie was reminiscent to Basic Instinct, not with the sex part, but more so with the detective kind of having feelings for somebody that he's investigating. Also kind of like someone to watch over me type of vibe. I believe this is playing at Landmark as well as at Bytown for the next week or so. Decision to Leave is actually a really strong film. If you're the type of person that doesn't mind subtitles, I think you're really going to enjoy this movie. I think it's one of the better movies that have come out lately.
Okay, we only have room for one more. Let's talk a little bit about Jerry and Marge Go Large.
To Jerry, not everybody can pull off 42 years without getting fired.
Jerry, you don't have to work so hard. You're retiring.
I don't have to be.
These are your golden years.
How's my account?
2% gains. You just gotta be more aggressive. I could double your money in
7.27 years.
literally the only time I was gonna get to use that today.
Jerry, you're going to have to tell me what's going on.
I was always good with math, codes, puzzles, you name it, but I just feel like I never got to be a part of the world. I found this flaw. There's a loophole that the lottery didn't see. It's right here in the math.
I don't know what this says. It looks like the numbers a crazy man drew in a cell bone.
I cannot believe you are my accountant.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell us all about this one, Keith.
Yeah, so we've got Bryan Cranston, of course, from Breaking Bad fame, and Annette Bening, a fantastic actor in her own right. They play Jerry and Marge Selby. This is based on a true story about a couple out of Michigan. Jerry was always great with numbers. He got to the point in his life where he retired, but he's very bored. And then one day he was looking at a lottery brochure, and he ran the numbers, and he found that there was a loophole in it, and as a result, he was able to take advantage of it and win a lot of money. Now, of course, this being a movie, they've taken some artistic licensing with how the movie goes versus how things were in real life. But at its core, this is a very sweet film. One of the great things about this movie that's playing on the Paramount network right now is that their true motivation behind it wasn't the money. Most people, when they win the lottery, they think of Lotto Max, they think of the trips, they think of like their retirement, they think of, all the things that they want to do. For them, it was something a little different, and I'll leave it at that. This is a very sweet film. I love Bryan Cranston. I mean, as a huge fan of Breaking Bad, anything he's in, I'll enjoy. But I really recommend Jerry and Marge Go Large. Very, very sweet film.
Well, fantastic. You always leave us with some great recommendations, and really appreciate it. I'm not going to be here next week, Keith. But the amazing Derek Fage will be filling in all next week. So maybe you can chat movies with Derek.
Absolutely. Derek's a fantastic person in his own right, and I will look forward to it. I don't call him by your name, so that's good. We don't have that problem. So, yeah, it'll be good, and I hope you have a great week.
Thank you so much. Keith Whittier is spending time with us today. He is a fabulous movie reviewer, bringing us some great recommendations. Appreciate his time. When we come back after this news break, we are going to be having lunch. 3 people coming to the table to have lunch today on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. Now available online at GabrielPizza.com.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Same as what it used to be. I think servers play the biggest role in keeping us safe because it's up to them what state the person's in when they leave. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law.
There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
My skills sharpen, cause I've been here sharpening.
What's going on, y'all? It's Jay Morris, aka your favorite light skin, and you're gonna check out my performance on Encore Ottawa 3 coming up this week. Let's go.
All again, murderation, 911, call it in. Neon murder every.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 4th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, 14 in Smiths Falls. It is 15 degrees. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Upset QP workers and their supporters are in front of the legislature in Toronto and also around MPP's offices province-wide. They're protesting the government's legislation, which passed last night, which makes a strike by QP illegal, enforcing a contract on them. City News reporter Chris Curries has the latest on the protest in front of Lisa McLeod's office on Greenbank Road.
Hundreds are protesting the Ford government and back-to-work legislation. There are QP workers who are EAs, library techs, and more. But there are also those like Pat, a retired teacher, who came out to show support.
I know how hard they work. I absolutely know how hard they work, and I know how valuable they are. And I also know that the classrooms really don't run without them. That includes custodians.
The defining question right now is how long this will last.
In the long term, if we're not successful, we have a union in name only, and we really don't have any rights.
John Paul tells me as an educational assistant, he'll take some short-term pain for long-term gains. A lot of support as well from passing cars who are honking their horns in support. In Nepean, Chris Curry's City News.
What happens next Monday if QP and the Ford government are unable to come to a resolution? That's the question on the minds of many today. Tom D'Amico is the Ottawa Catholic School Board Director. Today, he tells the Sam Laprade show the schools are closed and kids are taking lessons virtually.
So Monday, we'll still have no in-person learning if there's no resolution that's found between now and Monday morning. The difference will be our educators, which is now it's mainly our teachers, will be moving to synchronous learning on a regular basis. So very similar to what took place during the pandemic, which we know did not work for many students, but that's the best effort we can put at this time to allow for safety.
And QP members say they are prepared to remain off the job indefinitely, and they won't call off the strike unless the Ford government repeals the legislation that forces a 4-year contract on them. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Any fog will dissipate, sun and cloud for most areas, in a very warm day. 19 for the guaranteed high, but even warmer tomorrow, up to 23 degrees. Could see some record warm highs today and again tomorrow. Showers move in Saturday night. Very strong gusty southwest wind. Sun and cloud Sunday. Clocks go back 1 hour back to standard time. For today, the guaranteed high 19.
City News time is 12:03. The inquiry into the Emergencies Act continues today, with a prominent organizer taking the stand again for cross-examination. And meanwhile, a new poll finds most Canadians feel the government made the right move by invoking the Emergencies Act.
Under cross-examination, Tamara Leach was challenged about her message when she was being arrested, when she yelled, "Hold the line." She did not agree that that was a message to protesters to stay where they were.
Hold the line, don't leave Ottawa. Some might have interpreted it that way. Would you agree?
I can't speak for what other people think.
Leach also claims she was never told the protesters had to leave, and said that if they were told not to roll their trucks downtown on their arrival, they wouldn't have gone there. Leach also claims that if they were told in advance of the convoy that they weren't allowed to go downtown Ottawa, they would not have rolled their trucks in front of Parliament Hill. She also claims she was never told protesters had to leave, despite evidence of a meeting with police where she was told that. In an exchange with a federal government lawyer, she said they were in it for the long haul.
Yes, we definitely would have loved to have stayed and continued to protest peacefully.
Meanwhile, a new poll from Abacus Data about the Emergencies Act shows 63% of Canadians feel the federal government made the best choice it could under the circumstances. The remaining 37% say it was a bad choice. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, we thought we would end this week with a fantastic lunch, combination of community and business leaders, and we wanted to join today with Mary Wong, president of the Centretown Community Association. Hi, Mary. Thanks for joining us for lunch here on City News.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm great. Christina Spencer is spending time with us as well, editorial pages editor for the Ottawa Citizen. Welcome to lunch, Christina.
Hi there.
And our third guest today is Noor Qadri, professor at the University of Ottawa. Hi, Noor.
Well, hi, Sam. Good afternoon to you and your listeners. And
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We certainly have lots to talk about today. Let's start with a little bit of the talk about the so-called Freedom Convoy. We know the testimony was wrapping up today for Tamara Leach. Mary, you have certainly an interesting take on everything that happened during that month here in Ottawa. Did you hear anything from Tamara or Chris Barber or potentially Pat King, any of those main organizers that surprised you this week?
Not me personally, but it's very interesting. This spring, they're saying that they're peace loving, and when their actions were not so during the Freedom Convoy, and they started. We have members that are in the North End near the Wellington, and there are horns going off until 4 a.m. in the morning, and that is definitely not a peaceful protest, and it's like the trucks were parked in a lot of major streets, blocking emergency vehicles, who are seniors are afraid to leave their apartment buildings, and they say they're peaceful and they're law-abiding, but I think Ottawa police and the bylaw also failed. They should have started ticketing right at the beginning for illegal parking, noise complaints, and so on, which has been reported to them, but for at least 2 weeks they did nothing.
Christina, what were your thoughts about the testimony we heard this week?
Well, a couple of things, and others have made the point, but I agree with it. We're getting an awful lot of, I'm going to say, free publicity for the folks who were running these protests, right? They've been up there all week putting out their case, I guess, and not so much at this particular commission from the people impacted by it. And I think a lot of folks are maybe a little concerned about that. I understand it. You know, there are different missions here, let's put it this way, from the commission and from the parliamentary hearings and from the Ottawa People's Commission and so on. But, you know, we're giving a lot of free microphone time, shall we say, to the Chris Barbers and Pat Kings and Tamara Leaches of the world. Now, in a sense, it's very interesting to hear them, because it's kind of like hearing a slow-motion train wreck, isn't it? Watching these people. Pat King, you know, talking about how his videos were all taken out of context, weren't they? You know, Tamara Leach is sort of crumbling under the unbearable anxiety of having to figure out how to spend millions of dollars that had been raised. You know, it's very... I'm not feeling a lot of sympathy or love for these folks. But one of the things that I think was startling was the lawyer for the convoy folks, Keith Wilson, right, talking about potential leaks from the police. We don't really know where that's going. That surprised me. And obviously we need to find out a lot more about it.
We'll be following very closely. Noor, have you been following this testimony closely as well?
Yes, of course, like everybody in Ottawa who has been affected by that. And I believe the failure is started in leadership at the federal government, and they're trying to throw jabs at each other now. That the province had some role, the city had some role, and the leaks from the police. And it's... If we want to treat the root causes, I believe we need to identify the challenges at the beginning. The city of Ottawa is a very unique city. We're the capital city. We're a major city in Ontario. And the federal government, the provincial government, and the city all together, they need to have coordinated things properly. We've got police forces at 3 levels that didn't communicate well. Their standards are not the same. They don't have the proper investigative aspects that go together. I believe that has led to failure, in addition to leadership from the federal government perspective at the beginning. The convoy did not start in Ottawa. It started in the West, and they were coming to Ottawa. And watching them and doing nothing for 2 weeks, has led us to dealing with the aftermath of the whole situation.
And of course, we're going to be following it closely here on City News. We go in and out of the testimony as we can through the days, because we know that this is really important to obviously people listening to City News, but of course everybody here in the Ottawa area. I wanted to talk a little bit about what also is on the minds of people here in the region and across Ontario today. Christina, the action taken by CUPE today, the Ontario government using the notwithstanding clause, a very challenging day for parents and teachers and of course students today. What's your take on what's happening today?
Well, what worries me about it the most is I don't see how either side gets out of this. So we've got public sector CUPE workers, these are the education assistants, the early childhood educators, janitors, support staff for several school boards on strike, on an illegal strike today because the government passed its legislation last night. And they're striking anyway, right? The government is saying, nope, this is illegal, massive fines, we're using the notwithstanding clause so that nobody can challenge this. But we've got now a strike. We've got kids out of school today. Mm-hmm. We've got a government that really, really wants to use the hammer, and we've got a union that really wants to dig in. And, if you were to say to me, okay, what's the next step to resolving this, I would just throw my hands up in the air and say, I don't know, because both sides are now really, really dug in on their positions, and that is what worries me the most about this. We've had school strikes before, and we've had college strikes before. Mm-hmm. We had a college strike here in 2017, a community college, and these things can go on for a long time, but ultimately they get resolved because ultimately somebody goes back to the table or they get forced back to the table. Mm-hmm. There's just nothing in here. Like, there won't be any bargaining either, right? Because the legislation also sets the contract. So they don't even have anything to talk about. And that's what really surprises and alarms me about this.
Mm-hmm. I was part of the college strike. If I'm really dating myself, Christina, but it was in.
You're dating yourself 5 years.
Well, I wish it was in the 1990s. But I am dating myself. That it goes back that way, and I remember the pressure and the anxiety that caused me, because of course, as you know, college is only 2 years. But the pressure and anxiety for so many in your today. What are your takes on what's happening here with the strike?
I've been involved in a lot of unions, okay, and I've sat at the bargaining table with the Union of Professors, Contract Professors at the University of Ottawa twice, and we've negotiated in good faith a lot of time. I believe the biggest challenge that we have, especially with government, where the government is an employer, those collective agreements are negotiated for 2 or 3 years. And it's often the case that they start the bargaining only a few months before, in the hopes that they close a collective agreement. Many of those collective agreements, they are negotiated after the fact, and everybody tries to put the other group in the corner and pressure them to go directly into signing an agreement, and that's where the challenge lies in most of the situations. No government should be calling a notwithstanding clause, because when unions, they are present in order to defend the collective rights of their members. And the employer usually has the upper hand. They are the ones who pay the salaries. They are the ones who have the upper hand. And when you are in negotiation, these are tools for you. Mm-hmm. The strike is just one tool in the toolbox, and a lot of the unions or those bargainers, they use it as a last resort, and it's often the case that there is a vote ahead of time that the union or the bargainers on behalf of the union, they're allowed to use that tool when negotiations break down. No teacher or professor or any union member would want to stop their job or go into strike. The government pushing them to this corner makes things in a way unethical, especially when they are using their big hammer, though notwithstanding clause. This is something that should have never been used by the Ford government or any other government per se, because you are just telling everybody that we are stepping in your rights. These are rights that you have. we guarantee that those rights are for you, but for this time, we are going to step on your rights, and that shouldn't be the case.
It's going to be a very interesting weekend, let's put it that way. We're going to come back and have lunch with Mary Wong, Christina Spencer, and Noor Qadri here on City News. We're feasting on all those top news stories of the day. Stay with us, everyone, on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
I did it. I need it.
Here, I gave it.
And I am alive.
As an organ donor, you can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift of life. You'll be glad you did.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then, the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home, but the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally. And that's when I first saw Wilf. And I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
Donations to the War Amps have a lasting impact on amputees. Today, your support gives them the artificial limbs and resources they need for everyday activities and learning to live with amputation. Having access to our essential programs helps amputees prepare for tomorrow on their road to independence. The War Amps is committed to improving the quality of life for Canadian amputees, but this wouldn't be possible without you. To learn how your donation helps, visit waramps.ca.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Ladies, leave your men at home tonight.
Hey, this is Dominique Orly. I'm a part of Encore 3, and be sure to catch my set this week.
We are going downtown, leaving out all your stress and your sorrow.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's Friday, everyone, here on City News. And of course, you might be tuning in on Rogers TV, and we appreciate that very much. Let's put it this way. This has been a very busy news week. We wanted to have lunch with some of our favorites. And of course, Noor Qadri, Professor, University of Ottawa, joins us. Christina Spencer, Editorial Pages Editor for the Ottawa Citizen. And Mary Wong, President of the Centrepoint Community Association. Mary, before we went to break here on Lunch with Sam, we were talking about, the strike that's happening right now, which deemed the illegal strike because the Ford government implemented that notwithstanding clause. What do you think, Mary, this means for other unions negotiating with the Ford government?
Well, with Ford government in the previous government doing only a 1% increase for the last 3 years for educational workers or healthcare workers, and which means that these people who are working for schools and as well as hospital long-term care are losing ground when inflation this past year has been between like about 6% to as high as 8.1% on different months. So I think it's a hard situation because I know the QP asked for 11.7% per year, which is not quite realistic. Our government cannot afford that much per year. But also the Ford government wasn't negotiating good faith by offering only 1.5% when inflation's at 6 or 7% on average, and that. For the last year, and there's 1 year was at 1%, the other year was 2%, and so to offer 1.5% was not really fair in my opinion, and because you have to reach agreement, it has to be fair for different parties.
It's certainly going to be interesting to see how this plays out for sure.
And I think the next one up is going to be the hospital long-term care, because they were mom is in long-term care in the Glebe Center, and I know the staff has been unhappy with only the 1% increase for the last 3 years.
Okay, we'll be watching this very closely, obviously, on City News to see how this is all going to play out. I want to shift gears a little bit. Christina Spencer, we know Mayor-elect Mark Sutcliffe this week's leading up to the big day, November the 15th, where he will take the seat as mayor of this city. What does Mark, in your mind, have to do, Christina, in the next 100 days to get a good foundation for the next 4 years?
I was trying to narrow down my list on that one. Well, I mean, he has a couple things that he'll have to deal with regardless of the rest of his agenda. First of all, there'll be that big inquiry report on the LRT. I think that's due to the minister at the end of November, if I'm not mistaken. And the pledge is to release that as quickly as possible. So one of the first things he'll have to do is look at what that says and whether there are lessons that he and his council can draw from that in a tangible way, and be able to say to taxpayers, here are some things we will do as a result of that. I think that'll be high on his plate. The other thing, of course, is he has to pass a budget. Right. That has to happen fairly quickly for 2023. And as you'll know, Mr. Sutcliffe promised all of us property taxpayers that he will limit the hike in our property taxes to 2.5%. So there's got to be some way, if he wants, to go in with some credibility to figure out how he's going to sell that to council and to others. And of course, the other thing that it will take a long time to do, but he will need to show steps toward it, is just council culture and council unity and people kind of getting along and working together. Wow. So a couple of early wins for him and for the other councillors in that regard would probably set a foundation, I think, that people would like to see.
And we know, Noor Qadri, you ran to be mayor of this city. You ran a fantastic campaign. I know how hard you worked. What, in your mind, does Mayor-elect Sutcliffe have to do to set us up for a strong 100 days?
Well, as you said, I unsuccessfully ran for mayor, and I debated the mayor-elect in a lot of files. I believe in the first 100 days, these are going to be determining factors on how the city is going to be run for the next 4 years. One of the biggest challenges that we have in the city is that there are a lot of inefficiencies and waste, and there should be a strategic review of all the city spending in order to make sure that they eliminate those inefficiencies and waste, and they are in hundreds of millions of dollars that are there. The other important thing, for the first time, we're going to have a strong mayor as per legislation by Premier Ford. And while a lot of the candidates were saying that we're not going to use a strong mayor's power, I believe within the strong mayor's power, eliminate the veto power on council. There are a lot of good things. The mayor is in charge of their budget, so they are going to be the ones that are running their budget. The second thing is they can hire and fire the top brass within the city, and with that, I believe within the first 100 days, the mayor-elect should have the whole group within the city, mainly general managers. They should have mandate letters that are clear, that are public, in order to implement their plan. The last thing the mayor-elect should say that in a couple of years we had this plan, but these were the things and we couldn't implement them. So if they have clear mandate letters to senior management, that would be an important thing. Third and most important is we have seen a lot of corruption in the city. The LRT is just one example of a major project that is over budget, beyond schedule, of low quality, and there is an audit now that we're going to see recommendations out of that. There should be procurement practices that are like transparent, and the mayor-elect should be accountable on those things. They have their hands on the taps to decide on what goes right and what goes wrong now, especially within their strong mayor's powers.
For sure. And
all the corruption must be dealt with at the root cause. It is clear, it is public. A company like SNC-Lavalin getting in on LRT when they don't meet the minimum criteria, and then you see nobody behind bars. You see nobody being accountable. And who's paying the price? It's the taxpayers. And these are hefty bills that we're looking at. So the 2.5% in terms of budget or in terms of tax increases and capping them at them, this is very possible if they can go and look for the efficiencies, deal with the waste, and make sure that there are transparent and accountable practices when it comes to both procurement and employment.
Really appreciate. We've run out of time, unfortunately. I really welcome the opportunity today to sit down with all of you today for lunch with Sam here on City News and debate some of these topics, of course, that are in the news. I hope you'll all join us again for lunch. Thank you so much to Mary Wong, Christina Spencer, and Noor Qadri. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. We really enjoy this opportunity every day to welcome in community members and business members. Of course, you can see someone that's run for mayor, president of a community association, and the editor of the Ottawa Citizen, one of the editorial pages editor, Christina Spencer. Great to have lunch with them today. I think Derek Fage is going to be doing this all next week. I'm off next week. I'm going to be working for the Legion National Foundation next week. I won't be here on City News, but Derek Fage will be, and we hope that you will be. I'm not done yet, though. We're coming back with the business lunch on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
That's the way I kill my skill sharpen, because I've been here sharpening.
What's going on, y'all? It's Jay Morris, a.k.a. your favorite light skin, and you're going to check out my performance on Encore Ottawa 3 coming up this week. Let's go.
All again, murderation, 911, call it in. Me, I murder every...
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Friday, November 4th. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Onime. Right now in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, 17. In Smiths Falls, it is 18. And here's what's making news this hour. The province is seeking to have the walkout by education workers declared illegal by the Ontario Labour Relations Board, and actions by the union leaders unlawful. This is as thousands of education workers walked off the job and hit the picket lines across the province and at Queen's Park. Now, in the Ottawa area, rallies are happening at busy intersections and in front of offices of PC MPPs, including Lisa MacLeod, Marilla Fullerton, and John Jordan's office in Smiths Falls. Now, only schools in the English Public Board, the Renfrew County Catholic District School Board, and the French Catholic Board are open for in-person classes today. The rest of the local school boards are closed. And QP has vowed not to let up until the Ford government repeals the legislation it passed yesterday that forces a 4-year contract on them. The Ottawa Police is asking you to avoid the area of Ramseyville and Walkley Road. Officers say there is a police operation going on in the area, which began yesterday and continues to tomorrow. Residents can expect to see officers from K9 and the Emergency Services Unit at the site, but police says there is no risk to the public. Again, you're advised to avoid the area. City News time is 12:31. I am Damilola Onime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Can I tell you a little secret about one of the best parts of this job I have here? I don't even think of it as a job. It's so much pleasure to come in and spend time with you here on City News. But one of the best parts is I get to tour around this city and, of course, right into the Valley and bring you all sorts of stories. Today, we are heading to BC. Well, in BC, in this case, is Bell's Corners. And we're going to head and chat with Todd Hamstra, now Executive Directors at the Bell's Corners BIA. How are you, Todd?
I'm doing very well, and how are you?
I love Bell's Corners.
Isn't it great?
It's fantastic. So I spend a lot of time there, actually, and Bell's Corners definitely over the years has, the face of Bell's Corners has changed so much. From a BIA perspective, what are some highlights?
Well, you know, we try our best to just improve the strip, making it more, shoppable, trying to attract some great businesses. And for a while there, it was looking, there was a lot of for-lease signs here and there, but now I think there's only one for-lease sign. So we've really done a lot in that avenue for, attracting people to set up shop in Bell's Corners. To me, it's a great place to be honest. It honestly feels like a small town feel, and people really love that about Bell's Corners. Sure. I've been there about 35 years myself, and so I know it very well, and I've seen so many places come and go over the years. But now, I just think it's great. All the restaurants, all the stuff we're attracting, and people are setting up shops. We have Kitchissippi Beer, we have Conspiracy Theory. So they're all great places to go before a Sens game, which, we all know the Sens are about 10 minutes away. So,
right.
To catch a game. and go to some of these places. It's great.
I was thinking the same thing. I was at the Brew Table recently, which was fantastic. Great place there. And Whippersnapper, I had a chance on Rogers TV last week to chat with the owner of Whippersnapper.
Yeah, and Ian's a great guy.
Ian's a great guy, absolutely. And it's great to sort of meet all of the people behind these businesses. And you've definitely added a few hotels as well, which I think Bell's Corners certainly wasn't known for hotels, but that's changed, Todd.
Yeah, so the Hyatt has come in, and Allison's been there. She's the manager there. She's a super girl. The Hyatt's a beautiful, brand new hotel. They kind of put it there because of the horse park just down the street, right? So, there's probably about 20,000 people go through that Wesley Clover, every summer. So, they needed something to stay at because they were actually going to Canada, which that's odd. Let's support Bell's Corners. So we've kind of tapped into that market too as well for these horse people. So that's a good thing as well.
Well, that's awesome. And I know there's lots of stores that we may not think about. We obviously talk about restaurants. Sukhothai is one of my favorite as well. Great restaurant there. But there's lots of businesses as well that maybe don't get the attention that they deserve as well. Can you highlight a few of those for us, Todd?
Yeah, so we have a thrift store. So for any people that are into the secondhand clothes or whatever, they have lots of good stuff there. Pretty Fly is a consignment store. She's been in business just before COVID, I think she started. So she had a little bit of a tough go. That's one of my things. Some of these people have had a tough go because of COVID, and I want people to support them because they're great businesses to go to, and she's a consignment store, and then we have Metro, Loblaws, and I actually I'm part of the BIA as well. There's 7 of us, but I actually own Freshco.
Right.
So I'm the owner at Freshco. So I do the BIA as a volunteer. So yeah, I do both hats or wear both hats, and I love it.
And what advice would you have somebody that maybe hasn't shopped the Bell's Corners area before? What advice would you have for them if they were heading to that part of town?
Well, we have everything. We have music stores, so Fleet Music. We have Indian restaurants. We have, every type of restaurant you could imagine. Like I'm talking, Mississippi beer. You can sit there. It's right on the bike path. So there's the bike path that goes all the way through Canada and Stittsville and all the way through Bell's Corners. And Mississippi has a coffee room, which people frequent all the time. They bike down the path, stop there for a beer or, a coffee. There's every type of food, good restaurants, good food. And like I said, before the game, I tend to find around Canada gets busy, around the Scotiabank place. So, come to Bell's Corners. Come to our establishment. Support these guys, because I tell you, some of these places have some of the best food I've ate.
Absolutely.
So, Conspiracy Theory has a poutine that, the gravy is cooked for 16 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, so it is phenomenal. And their beer is just great. So, you know what? You don't know what you're missing. Some of the best Indian food at Ashina in behind Eastside Mario's. Great food. It's his wife cooks it. Real authentic Indian food. So a lot of these places are hidden gems, and they're great to go to.
Well, it's the business lunch, and you're certainly making us very hungry, Todd, talking about all of the offerings in Bell's Corners. Really appreciate it, and thanks for bringing some attention to the Bell's Corners area. My parents both worked in Bell's Corners for many years, so I've spent...
oh, they did?
Yeah, they did. They both worked at the Bank of Nova Scotia there for many years, so they definitely, we know the area very well. Todd, thanks so much for your time today.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Todd Hamster joining us today, Executive Director of the Bell's Corners BIA, also associated with the Freshco. Certainly a very busy place to be. Bell's Corners, of course, linking kind of, Ottawa and Canada. Kind of an interesting area there, part of Nepean back in the day. I'm dating myself. I used to work for the mayor of Nepean, so I knew that area quite well as well. We've got lots coming up for you on the business lunch. This has really been something we've tried out over the last couple of weeks, and we're going to keep doing it because we've got really great feedback on promoting and focused on a number of the issues of the day when it comes to business. We heard today, speaking about business, that the Ottawa Senators are officially up for sale. So I don't know, do you have way more than that, $655 million is the number that's been thrown around, but certainly we're hearing bigger numbers than that, so we're going to be anxious to see who decides that they're going to put their name forward and go for this. We've heard rumors that Ryan Reynolds, the actor, is thinking about moving forward and putting his name forward to own this team. So I'm sure there's lots of different people that are thinking about becoming the owners of the Ottawa Senators. The condition is that the team stays here in the capital. So that's really interesting. That was new information we heard today. We're going to be following this very closely. When we come back, we're going to speak with a senior economist with Indeed. I don't know if you know about it Indeed or not. They are where we go to post a lot of different job postings. They're indicating that the job postings are soaring, but employers may struggle to fill some of those positions for seasonal jobs. And I can tell you, I've witnessed it in my own home where someone's working a seasonal position and they could have worked 40 hours a week. Absolutely. But the people just aren't there for some of these positions. So we're going to be getting the scoop from Brendan Bernard, senior economist with Indeed, when we come back. We're also going to be chatting with Debbie Trenholm. She's the owner of Savvy Company. There is a big event happening tonight called Outstanding in Their Fields. She's going to tell us about that great event that's taking place. So lots coming for you here on the Business Lunch on City News. We are following very closely as well the story regarding what's happening with CUPE and the strike. We know that is considered an illegal strike today. So kids in the Ottawa Carleton District School Board are at school today, but they are not at the Ottawa Catholic School Board. All these different school boards employ different groups. A lot of different parents are worried about what's going to happen on Monday. So it was one thing to have sort of one day off, kind of inconvenient, obviously, for some parents, but those education workers are pushing back on the government. That union is pushing back and saying, we are not being paid enough. We need to see some increase there. So we know the government said, well, we're going to use the notwithstanding clause. So it has been a very stressful week on this topic. We have followed it fully here. We're going to continue to follow it. You're going to want to stay with us all afternoon. You just never know when the developments are coming, but we'll bring you any of that breaking news. You'll want to stay with us here on the Business Lunch with Sam Laprade on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
On Friday's Daytime Ottawa, how many times have you heard this? Mom, Dad, there's nothing to eat. I understand, kids. There's only ingredients. You have to put them together in order to make something to eat. We'll tell you how to take some of those pantry staples and turn them into a fabulous recipe. Also, the Itty Bitty Art Show is happening in Carleton Place. We'll give you all the details on that. And, of course, we'll tell you about all the events that are coming up over the weekend right here on Daytime Ottawa.
It isn't the heavy trays that make the job difficult, or the fast pace you need to keep up. It's not working another double because someone called in sick. What makes the job tough is the moment you realize a customer has had enough, and you have to make that decision not to overserve. Refusing service isn't personal, it's the law. We know it's not easy, but we're counting on you to keep us all safe. Thank you, servers, for doing the tough job.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
I am Audrey. And I'm Leah. Leah inspired me to play hockey. The War Amps has helped me by giving me my devices I need to play hockey.
Audrey has an amputation similar to mine.
What does yours do? The stick clicks in it.
My device from the War Amps allows me to shoot a lot better. It rotates like a wrist, which helps a lot with shooting and stick handling.
When I score a goal, I feel really happy.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, I'm joined by my friend Neil from Ottawa Valley Meats. Tune in to see what we're grilling up on the barbecue.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to join us for the business lunch here on Rogers TV and City News. We wanted to welcome to lunch today Brendan Bernard, senior economist with Indeed. Hi, Brendan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Brendan, you know, on this show, we talk a lot about what's happening with business, and every single person we have on says they have a hard time finding staff. This is not a surprise to you, though, Brendan.
No, it's not. We've been tracking job postings on Indeed quite closely throughout the pandemic, sort of like as a measure of overall employer hiring appetite. And things rebounded relatively quickly from the drop-off in early 2020. They soared last year, and they've remained quite elevated this year. Maybe a slight cooling off from earlier in Q2, but still, I think overall, across a whole range of areas of the economy and regions of the country, employers are looking for workers.
And I think I got a really interesting sort of firsthand look at this. My daughter was working in a seasonal position for sort of a Halloween kind of event, if you will. And, you know, she could have worked way more than what she was asked to because of, you know, the lack of people in many ways, right? So we know that those that are being tapped for those seasonal jobs could basically work full-time hours if they wanted to or were able to. What's it looking like for this upcoming Christmas season or holiday season?
Just in general, seasonal demand is up this year. And it's up actually after 2 years where I'd say the seasonal trends actually lagged the rest of the economy. So no surprise, 2020 was a down year for seasonal hiring. But then 2021, job postings in seasonal hiring rebounded, but they didn't soar to the same extent as we saw overall employer hiring appetite. This year, though, seasonal job postings are looking strong. They're up, as of late October, they were up 28% from where they stood in late October 2021, and they're up 40% from where they were in 2019. So a lot of employers across the retail space, certain other areas of tourism and events, looking to find workers for the final 2 months of the year.
And what's the message to employers today, Brendan, from your perspective?
Well, in some ways, it's not so different from the rest of the economy. In a tight hiring environment where there's lots of job openings and relatively few unemployed people, that's an environment where if employers need to fill roles, they need to stand out from the competition. And so that's offering competitive compensation, offering other perks, including job flexibility and opportunities for advancement, all the things that job seekers are looking for in a role. In the seasonal world, though, the timelines are just all compressed. And so the heat is really on because at the end of the day, while in some areas of the economy, even if it takes a little longer to fill a role, okay, that's a challenge for the business, but that hire is meant for the long term. Whereas in the seasonal world, if the hiring doesn't happen right now, the season can come and go by January.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what's the message for people that are looking on Indeed for those positions? I mean, they seem to have their pick then of what they want to do and work within sort of parameters that are maybe easy for them in terms of all the things you mentioned, flexibility being one.
Yeah, I think it's a job seekers market, and so for those looking for seasonal work, it's definitely out there, and hopefully there are opportunities that sort of fit what people are looking for in terms of right pay, right scheduling, things like that. I think in general also and this is an economy-wide trend. There's unlike the U.S., Canada hasn't seen a surge in job hopping amid the tight labor market that's emerged from the pandemic. And so I think there have been opportunities on the table that some people might miss out if the economic situation turns next year. And job hopping is a way that people advance their careers, get secure higher wages. And so while we remain in a tight job market for now, if there are opportunities out there. And so it might be a good time to look for a new job before the environment turns.
Mm-hmm. What's the strangest posting you've ever seen, Brendan? Does one pop to mind?
Strangest posting? Oh, that's a good question. I've heard some funny ones in the U.S. I mean, since we're on the topic of seasonal jobs, we definitely do have a handful of Santa's postings as well as elf postings. And with foot traffic hopefully returning to malls this year, hopefully we see those types of jobs rebound like previous years.
Well, and we know Santa just, he can't be everywhere, so sometimes he needs a little help, right?
That's right.
That's fantastic. Brendan, thanks so much for your time today. Brendan Bernard joining us, senior economist with Indeed, giving us the scoop on all things seasonal postings. It's certainly going to be interesting to see how this holiday season is when we know that there's obviously a lot of challenges within the economy. We wanted to head to chat with Debbie Trenholm today. She's the owner of Savvy Company, and she is one busy person today. How are you, Debbie?
Oh, I'm great, Sam. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm so glad you could take a few minutes out to chat with us because, of course, today is outstanding in their fields.
It is our first large event in 3 years. You have no idea how excited I am, as well as everybody in my team and the winemakers and cider makers who are driving to Ottawa right now from all over the province.
Well, that's fantastic. Maybe they're listening to us right now on City News. What would you want to say, Debbie, about this first opportunity to get back to some normal?
Well, people here in Ottawa have been a huge support for Savvy Company all through the pandemic. And then when we announced our first event, tonight's event, the enthusiasm has been incredible. We are nearly sold out. I think we have about 20 tickets left.
Okay.
And this is a big time event for us at City Hall. And people can order online at outstandingintheirfields.ca.
And let's inspire them to scoop up those 20 tickets. Debbie, what can people expect tonight?
There will be over 100 different wines and craft ciders available to sample. One ticket is all you need, so just the admission ticket. You don't need to buy little tickets for various samples throughout the evening. So with this, you get the opportunity to meet the makers, chat with them as they're pouring all these different types of wines and craft ciders that are not available at the LCBO. So the added bonus of tonight's event is that you can actually order any of your newfound favorites, and we will deliver it next week.
Well, that's fantastic.
It's a great way to shop, Sam.
I was just thinking that. I was like, that just makes so much sense. And the time of year is really great because we can get all that great stuff in for the holiday season.
Indeed. It's hard to talk about holidays when it's beautiful weather outside like this. So we can still have some rosé and enjoy the summer-like weather that we have. And there'll be sparkling wines. Of course, there'll be outstanding red and white wines as well, and some really neat craft ciders of places you probably haven't tried before. Now, if you can't make it tonight, or if it's too short notice, our brand new website, which is another thing that we've done this week, we launched a new website. People can order online, and we will provide the special shipping rate, the special shipping promo of $5 anywhere across Ottawa, and they can have access to these wonderful wines and ciders at their doorstep.
Well, I mean, I've said it once, I'll say it 100 times, Debbie. You were way ahead of everybody when it came to what happened during the pandemic. Your business model was ahead of its time in many ways. So congratulations on that. I hope you have a fantastic night tonight. Outstanding in their fields taking place at City Hall, and of course, all directed by the Savvy Company. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Thanks a million, Sam, for your support, too.
Always a pleasure. Debbie Trenholm spending time with us. She's the owner of Savvy Company. We've spent some time with Debbie over the years, really trying to, promote some of those local businesses. And that's what the business lunch is all about. If you have an idea for the business lunch, shoot me an email, call one of our producers. We're happy to take any of those great ideas. Next week, Derek Fage will be here. He'll be filling in on the Sam Laprade show from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. all next week. I'm going to be working my other job, which is the Director of Development for the Legion National Foundation. And of course, the work there is all about Remembrance Period and raising important money for veterans and their families. So I'm going to be doing that next week. Derek Fage will be sitting in this seat, and I know he'll bring lots of great guests for you. Our great producers are going to work with him through the week to make sure that he's got all what he needs to bring you the stories affecting you and your community. It has been a very busy week here, and a big shout out to our producers, Aaron and Noah and Alex, who said goodbye to us on Wednesday. He's off for the big town of Toronto. Alex. Bye, Alex. We miss Alex already. We do appreciate everything our producers do and our whole team here at City News. It's my pleasure and my honor to spend time with you. I'll miss all of you next week, but keep tuning in to City News. Keep watching on Rogers TV. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great weekend.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hi, it's Steve Creighton with Diamond Storage.